Introduction. Imagine Sarah, working 60-hour weeks. Her calendar was packed with meetings, her inbox overflowing with emails. She was always on, always busy. Yet, after 5 years, her salary had barely budged. Her savings account felt stagnant, and the dream of starting her own venture seemed further away than ever. She felt perpetually tired, running on a hamster wheel, mistaking motion for progress, sacrificing her evenings and weekends for an elusive promise of future freedom that never arrived. Take a moment to consider where this feeling of being busy but not truly advancing might resonate in your own career journey. The first thing to grasp is that busyness is often a well-disguised trap. Many professionals discover that meticulously chasing endless tasks, even for a demanding boss, doesn't build valuable market skills or increase their leverage for higher pay or an exit strategy. Consider a time when you spent hours perfecting a presentation that barely saw the light of day, or attended meetings that yielded no tangible decisions. This isn't just wasted time, it's a direct drain on your potential earning power. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their unwavering focus on high-leverage activities, not just any activity. One shift that accelerates progress is understanding that true productivity isn't about being constantly occupied, but about strategically moving the needle on your most important goals. For a quick assessment, list 3 tasks you completed yesterday that felt busy but ultimately achieved nothing significant toward your financial freedom or career growth. Recognizing the illusion of busyness is the first step toward reclaiming your time and building a future on your terms. Velocity is not volume, it's direction. Now here's where the real shift begins, moving beyond simply being busy to understanding the nature of time itself. We often operate under the myth that time is a fixed, immovable block, where external pressures dictate our entire day, stealing our agency and dictating when and how we engage with our most important work. Many professionals discover that their most impactful work, deep problem solving, strategic planning, skill development, gets relegated to the margins or crammed into reactive moments. The first thing to grasp is that your energy isn't fixed, even if the clock is. Your capacity for certain tasks fluctuates throughout the day. Think of the moment when you tried to tackle a complex negotiation strategy or learn a new market analysis tool late in the afternoon, feeling drained and making little progress. This isn't a failure of effort, it's a mismatch of task to energy state. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate orchestration of their peak mental and creative hours. They protect these windows for high-value output instead of letting them be consumed by routine emails or low-impact meetings. This strategic scheduling isn't just about productivity, it's directly linked to your leverage and potential for an exit plan. When you consistently produce high-quality, high-impact work during your optimal periods, you accelerate skill stacking and improve your market value. One shift that accelerates progress is to proactively identify and block out your most productive hours for deep work that truly moves you towards your financial goals. For today, observe your peak energy times for 3 hours. Take a moment to consider how often your daily schedule truly aligns with your natural energy flow, rather than external demands. Reclaiming your time means understanding its elastic nature, not just its rigid structure. Own your energy, own your day. Now here's where the real shift begins, addressing the pervasive myth that more apps or tools will magically solve our time management problems. The status quo often traps us in a cycle of tool hopping, where we constantly search for the perfect system, only to add layers of complexity without genuine strategic improvement. Consider a professional who downloads every new productivity app, spending hours customizing dashboards, learning new interfaces, and syncing data, rather than actually executing the high-leverage tasks crucial for their career growth or side venture. This isn't just inefficient, it directly hinders their ability to develop market-ready skills or build a viable exit strategy from their current role. The first thing to grasp is that tools are amplifiers of existing systems and clear strategies, not substitutes for them. Many professionals discover that this constant pursuit of the next best app drains cognitive energy that could be better spent on deep, focused work, the kind that truly increases earning potential or builds a financial runway. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their commitment to simplicity. They understand that complexity often masks a lack of strategic clarity, and they deliberately minimize their digital footprint to free up mental bandwidth for what truly matters. Take a moment to consider how many apps on your devices genuinely contribute to your core income-generating activities or skill development. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that the true power lies in your disciplined process, not in the multitude of features an app offers. A single, well-utilized tool is infinitely more effective than a dozen half-adopted solutions. To begin stripping away this unnecessary complexity, your micro-action today is simple. Delete one unused productivity app from your phone. It's a small act, but it signals a powerful shift towards strategic minimalism. Your system should serve your strategy, not complicate it. Simplify to amplify. There's a deeper layer worth exploring, addressing the dangerous myth that you can always catch up. This belief is a treadmill that leads to continuous overwhelm, quietly eroding health, relationships, and ultimately your capacity for effective action. Many professionals find themselves perpetually in deficit, believing they can reclaim lost sleep or neglected family time someday. Consider a seasoned manager, constantly working late, pushing through weekends, convincing himself he'll rest when the project is done. But the mental fatigue compounds, leading to poor decision-making in critical client meetings, missed strategic insights, and a noticeable decline in his ability to innovate or lead. His long-term career trajectory suffers, not just his personal life. The first thing to grasp is that time, once spent, or health, once compromised, cannot truly be caught up in the way we often imagine. There's a compounding effect to neglect. Think of the frustration when a side hustle meant to build a runway for financial freedom never gains traction because the primary job's continuous demands leave no energy for consistent, focused effort. Relationships with family or friends become strained, further draining emotional reserves that are critical for resilience during a risky career transition. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their proactive approach to preventing overwhelm, understanding that sustained output relies on sustained input, including rest and strategic disengagement. They recognize that burnout isn't a badge of honor, it's a productivity killer and a barrier to leverage. Take a moment to notice how this principle might already be subtly impacting your own pursuit of financial freedom. One shift that accelerates progress is establishing non-negotiable boundaries around your recovery time, treating rest and personal connection as vital components of your career strategy, not expendable luxuries. To bring this into focus, your micro-action is to identify one specific area of your life that is visibly suffering from your current time habits. Be honest with yourself about the cost. Sustainable success isn't built on endless output, but on intentional restoration and strategic balance. Prioritize your whole self. Let's build directly on what we uncovered, challenging a fundamental myth that holds many back: the idea that only certain people are organized. This thinking often leads us to assume time is merely a resource to be managed, rather than a dynamic skill to be mastered. Many professionals resign themselves to disorganization, believing it's an innate trait, not realizing this mindset severely limits their potential for career growth and financial independence. Consider a highly skilled engineer, brilliant at their craft, but constantly missing internal deadlines or struggling to manage multiple project timelines. Their perceived lack of organization prevents them from being promoted to a leadership role, where strategic time mastery is essential for managing teams and complex deliverables, ultimately capping their salary ceiling and delaying any meaningful job escape. This isn't a deficiency, it's an undeveloped capability, a critical skill bottleneck. The first thing to grasp is that organization isn't a fixed personality trait, it's a learnable, repeatable skill. Just like any other valuable skill, from coding to public speaking, it can be honed through deliberate practice and intention. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their recognition that mastering time management, specifically the ability to proactively structure their days and focus on high-leverage activities, directly translates into increased earning power, efficient skill stacking, and the capacity to execute complex exit strategies with confidence. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that small, consistent acts of intentionality build this skill over time, far more effectively than grand, unsustainable overhauls. Take a moment to consider where the belief, "I'm just not an organized person," has held you back from building your runway or increasing your leverage. This book, for instance, is designed to be digested in manageable steps. To begin cultivating this vital skill of consistent action and sustained focus, your micro-action is to commit to reading just one chapter a day for the next 15 days. This isn't about the content, it's about the consistent practice. True mastery over your time comes from developing the internal discipline, not just applying external tools. Time is a skill. Cultivate it deliberately. Chapter 1. The Urgency Illusion Destroyer, Prioritizing for True Freedom. Consider Marcus, a talented senior analyst. His inbox and Slack were constant battlegrounds. Every urgent request, every ASAP email sent him scrambling. He mistook reactivity for reliability. Years passed, peers advanced. Marcus remained stuck, a master of immediate crises, never the architect of his own long-term solutions. His skills stacking for an entrepreneurial venture languished, replaced by the relentless current of other people's urgent, often low-impact demands. He hit a salary ceiling, not from lack of ability, but from mistaking perceived urgency for true importance. The first thing to grasp is that true freedom isn't found in reacting faster, but in discerning more wisely. Many professionals discover that perpetually responding to every ping ensures you never lead your own day. You're merely a sophisticated responder to external agendas. This constant reactive state prevents deep, focused work essential for building leverage, increasing earning power, or developing skills needed for a job escape. Think of crucial client acquisition planning pushed aside by a seemingly urgent yet low-impact email. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ruthless prioritization, understanding most urgency is manufactured, not inherent. Another factor that changes everything is proactively scheduling strategic work during peak hours, protecting it like a high-stakes client meeting. This empowers you to shift from managing demands to actively shaping your future. Take a moment to notice where this principle already shows up in your own decisions. To break this cycle, your micro-action today is simple. Categorize your last 5 urgent tasks by their actual, long-term impact on your strategic goals versus their immediate, superficial demand. Don't let perceived urgency hijack your true priorities. Lead your day, don't merely react to it. This insight naturally leads us forward to dismantle the pervasive myth that all tasks are equal. The status quo often sees individuals spending equal effort, time, and mental energy on both minor and major impact activities, creating a sense of constant busyness without commensurate results. Consider a professional who dedicates an hour to perfecting the formatting of a low-stakes internal memo, while only 15 minutes are given to strategizing for a high-value client negotiation. This imbalance directly impacts earning power and skill stacking, as the critical leverage points are systematically under-resourced. Many professionals discover that this equal effort approach is a primary bottleneck in their journey towards financial freedom. The first thing to grasp is that true productivity, leading to income growth and a viable job escape, comes from identifying and amplifying those few efforts that generate the most significant returns. Think of the critical skills in your desired market. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their acute awareness of the 80-20 principle. Roughly 20% of your efforts produce 80% of your results. This applies to everything from client acquisition friction to building your financial runway. Another factor that changes everything is deliberately funneling your best energy and focused attention into these high-impact activities, even if they feel less urgent than the trivial many. Take a moment to consider how much of your day is currently consumed by tasks that provide minimal return on your investment of time and energy. One shift that accelerates progress is to systematically audit your tasks for their actual impact. To begin, identify just one 20% effort task that, if prioritized and executed consistently, would yield 80% of your most desired results in your career strategy or financial goals. Discerning impact over activity is the bedrock of accelerating your freedom. Focus on the vital few, not the trivial many. This insight naturally leads us forward, confronting another counterproductive myth: the belief that a longer to-do list somehow means more gets done. The reality of the status quo is quite the opposite. Continuous overwhelm from endless lists often kills motivation, leading to paralysis instead of progress. Many professionals discover they spend more time managing their burgeoning lists than actually executing tasks that move them forward. Consider a professional aiming for a significant career pivot, needing to skill stack in a new area. Their list includes learn Python, network with industry leaders, update LinkedIn, research market trends, and dozens more. The sheer volume creates an emotional barrier. They feel overwhelmed, deferring the most crucial, demanding items like starting the Python course in favor of easier, less impactful tasks. This paralysis directly sabotages their runway building and their timeline for a successful job escape. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their unwavering commitment to radical focus over exhaustive coverage. The first thing to grasp is that your brain registers a huge list as a threat, triggering avoidance, not action. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that progress comes from completing a few impactful tasks, not just collecting many. One shift that accelerates progress is deliberately pruning your daily commitments to a manageable, highly impactful few. Take a moment to recall the last time a long to-do list made you feel more paralyzed than productive. To actively combat this overwhelm, your micro-action for today is precise. Prune your current to-do list down to only 3 truly essential tasks that will move your career or financial freedom forward. True progress isn't measured by the length of your intentions, but by the depth of your execution. Less is more. Focus is force. There's a deeper layer worth exploring, confronting the deeply ingrained myth that you must please everyone. This belief often dictates the status quo, allowing others' priorities to constantly derail your own goals, silently sabotaging your path to financial freedom. Many professionals find themselves in a perpetual state of yes, accepting every extra task, joining every committee, fearing rejection, or appearing uncooperative. Consider an ambitious manager consistently taking on low-impact tasks from colleagues or volunteering for internal initiatives that don't advance her core career strategy. This inability to set boundaries directly impacts her ability to dedicate time to skill stacking for a promotion or to build the financial runway necessary for a planned job escape, ultimately capping her earning power. The first thing to grasp is that genuine leverage and respect in your career come not from indiscriminate yeses, but from strategic no's. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their unwavering commitment to their own high-value objectives, understanding that every yes to a non-essential request is a no to a critical one for their financial future. Think of the budget stress created when you're constantly overcommitted, leading to rushed decisions or missed opportunities for client acquisition. Another factor that changes everything is viewing your time and energy as finite, non-renewable capital that must be invested with deliberate precision. One shift that accelerates progress is to proactively identify which requests align with your growth and which are simply distractions, then communicating your boundaries with polite firmness. Take a moment to consider how often your desire to please has inadvertently pushed your most important goals to the back burner. To begin reclaiming your agency, your micro-action today is to decline one non-essential request with polite firmness. Your boundaries are not just protective, they are foundational to your freedom and growth. Protect your purpose. This insight naturally leads us forward to dismantle the myth that you need to do it all daily. The truth is, spreading yourself thin across a multitude of tasks prevents significant, deep progress, trapping you in a cycle of surface-level engagement. Many professionals discover they're constantly busy but see little upward movement in their career because their efforts are diffused. Consider an individual aiming to become a subject matter expert for a promotion or a job escape. If they dedicate snippets of time to a dozen different learning modules or projects each day, without deep immersion in any, their expertise remains superficial, failing to build true market skills or leverage. This scattered approach stalls income growth and delays runway building. The first thing to grasp is that real acceleration comes from concentrated effort, not diffused activity. Think of a freelancer trying to grow their income. If they spend part of every day on admin, part on new client outreach, part on skill improvement, and part on managing existing projects, each area receives insufficient energy to yield substantial results. This slows client acquisition and stalls income growth. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ruthless selectivity, understanding that intense focus on a few key objectives generates disproportionate returns. Take a moment to notice where this tendency to do it all might be diluting your most important efforts. One shift that accelerates progress is to make a deliberate choice, before your day even begins, about your absolute non-negotiable tasks. Your micro-action today, before you begin work, is to choose just 3 non-negotiable tasks that, if completed, would make today a success for your long-term goals. True progress is built on depth and deliberate execution, not breadth of frantic activity. Concentrate to elevate. Chapter 2, The Deep Work Dominion, Unlocking 4-Hour Productivity Blocks. Think of Alex, a talented software engineer, deep in the flow of optimizing a critical system. Suddenly, a pop-up from his project management tool, then a Slack message from a colleague about a minor bug, quickly followed by an email notification about a company-wide update. Each interruption, seemingly small, pulls him away. He switches screens, responds, then tries to re-engage with the complex code. But the thread is broken. It takes him 15 minutes to regain his previous level of focus, during which time his output quality drops and subtle errors creep in. What should have been a 2-hour task stretches into 4, delaying project delivery and ultimately impacting his performance reviews, limiting his earning power and the strategic roles he could pursue. The first thing to grasp is that multitasking, for complex work, is a profound myth. Many professionals discover that constant context switching doesn't boost efficiency. It actively erodes focus and output quality, preventing the deep work essential for true skill stacking and career advancement. Think of the critical planning for a job escape or the development of a new market skill. These tasks demand uninterrupted attention that fragmented work cannot provide. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that high-leverage activities require singular focus. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that the brain takes significant time to re-engage fully after an interruption. This hidden cost directly impacts your ability to generate high-value intellectual property, negotiate effectively, or even manage budget stress with clarity. One shift that accelerates progress is deliberately creating boundaries around your focused work periods. Take a moment to consider where your own workday is frequently fragmented by the pull of multiple, simultaneous demands. To begin experiencing the power of singular focus, your micro-action today is simple. Turn off all notifications, all pings, all alerts for your very next 30-minute task. Your most valuable output flows from your deepest focus. Eliminate the noise, amplify your impact. Let's build directly on what we uncovered. Another prevalent myth that hinders deep work is the belief that you need a perfectly silent, isolated room, ideal, often unattainable conditions to achieve true focus. The status quo, therefore, is believing deep work requires this pristine environment, leading many to postpone high-leverage tasks indefinitely, waiting for a perfect moment that rarely arrives. Many professionals discover that this perfect condition fallacy becomes a convenient excuse for not engaging in the strategic thinking or skill stacking essential for career advancement or building a job escape runway. Consider a parent working from home, telling themselves they can't possibly focus on their side hustles, financial modeling, or market research until the kids are asleep, only to be too exhausted by then. Or a corporate professional waiting for a clear day to tackle complex data analysis, but a clear day never materializes in their open plan office. This directly impacts their earning potential and their ability to gain a competitive edge in market skills. The first thing to grasp is that deep work isn't about the absence of all external noise, but the mastery of internal focus. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ingenuity in cultivating pockets of focused attention within less than ideal environments. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that small, consistent blocks of deep work, even in imperfect settings, compound over time into significant progress. Take a moment to consider how often the pursuit of perfection has prevented you from simply starting an important, focus-intensive task. One shift that accelerates progress is to stop waiting for perfect conditions and start leveraging accessible quiet. Your micro action today is to identify just one quiet spot you can access for a mere 15 minutes of uninterrupted focus, even if it's unconventional. Deep work is a practice, not a privilege. Cultivate focus where you are. Let's build directly on what we uncovered, addressing a persistent myth that stalls ambition. The idea that inspiration strikes randomly, a magical force you must simply wait for. The unfortunate status quo for many professionals is precisely this: waiting for motivation or a burst of creativity to tackle important, focused work. This passive approach often means crucial tasks, those that truly build your career strategy, increase earning power, or solidify your job escape runway, are perpetually deferred. Many professionals discover they spend more time contemplating a complex project, like analyzing market trends for a new venture, than actually starting it, all because they're waiting for the right feeling. Think of a software developer needing to master a new programming language for a promotion. If they wait for a spontaneous burst of inspiration, that essential skill stacking never gains traction, limiting their leverage and keeping them tethered to their current salary ceiling. Or consider an individual trying to build a financial buffer. Waiting for motivation to meticulously review their budget only prolongs budget stress and delays their freedom. The first thing to grasp is that action often precedes motivation, not the other way around. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their disciplined initiation, regardless of their mood or perceived inspiration. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that small, scheduled efforts consistently generate more progress than grand, infrequent bursts of inspired work. One shift that accelerates progress is to ritualize starting, regardless of how you feel. Take a moment to consider where you might be waiting for inspiration, instead of simply beginning. To embody this principle, your micro-action today is precise. Schedule a 25-minute deep work sprint immediately after this section. Don't wait for inspiration. Create it. Consistency in action cultivates motivation, leading to unwavering progress. Move, and the momentum will follow. Let's build directly on what we uncovered, turning now to the pervasive myth that you must be always on. The status quo, for far too many professionals, involves allowing constant digital interruptions to fragment attention, creating an illusion of productivity while silently eroding deep focus and high-quality output. Many professionals discover they're constantly tethered to their devices, feeling an unspoken obligation to respond instantly to every email, message, or notification. Consider a manager trying to strategize for a critical budget allocation or a negotiation whose deep thought is continually broken by pings from colleagues about minor issues. This fragmented attention prevents the sustained cognitive effort necessary for high-leverage decision-making, directly impacting career strategy and ultimately earning power. It's impossible to build robust market skills or plan a calculated job escape when your focus is perpetually scattered. The first thing to grasp is that true value generation, leading to financial freedom, demands periods of protected, uninterrupted attention. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate choice to disconnect from constant digital demands, creating boundaries around their most important work. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that every single digital interruption, no matter how small, carries a cost in terms of lost focus and time required to re-engage fully. Take a moment to consider how often your desire to be always on has pulled you away from your most crucial, impactful work. One shift that accelerates progress is to proactively design periods of digital off time. To experience this powerful change, your micro-action today is to close all unnecessary tabs and applications before you begin your next focused task. Mastering your attention is mastering your trajectory. Disconnect to create. Now here's where the real shift begins, as we confront a dangerous myth that many ambitious professionals cling to, the idea that you can just keep pushing indefinitely. The relentless drive for financial freedom or a job escape can inadvertently lead to a harmful status quo. a continuous cycle of working without adequate mental recovery, leaving you perpetually exhausted. Many professionals discover that this constant state of on actually diminishes their effectiveness rather than enhancing it. Consider a leader pushing through late nights and weekends, believing that more hours equal more output. Initially, they might see a spike, but soon, creativity wanes, judgment becomes clouded, and crucial decisions suffer. This direct impact on their cognitive capacity means they miss opportunities for strategic skill stacking or make negotiation mistakes that erode their earning power. Failing to disconnect doesn't just make you tired, it depletes the very mental capital needed for high-level career strategy and successful exit planning. The first thing to grasp is that your brain, like any muscle, needs periods of intentional rest to rebuild and consolidate learning. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that strategic disengagement is not a luxury, but a non-negotiable component of sustained high performance. Think of the budget stress and potential errors that arise when decisions are made by an exhausted mind. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that true mental recovery requires actively stepping away and allowing your mind to process, not simply switching to another low-intensity task. Take a moment to consider the hidden costs of mental exhaustion on your decision-making and overall progress. One shift that accelerates progress is building deliberate rituals for winding down and disconnecting, signaling to your brain that the work phase is complete. This isn't about passive relaxation, it's about active mental reset. To begin cultivating this vital skill, your micro-action today is to practice a 5-minute mindfulness exercise after finishing your work. True productivity and peak performance are found in the rhythm of intense focus, followed by intentional, restorative disengagement, rest to rise, disconnect to dominate. Chapter 3, the Energy Amplification Protocol, Fueling Your Peak Performance. Meet David, a driven senior analyst, laser-focused on earning a promotion to manager. He believed the path was paved with sheer hours, often working until midnight, then starting again before dawn. He'd push through the headaches, the blurred vision, and the dull ache of mental fatigue. One critical project, a complex financial model for a major client, needed his sharpest attention. Exhausted, he overlooked a subtle but significant data discrepancy. The error wasn't caught until the presentation, leading to a frantic scramble, client embarrassment, and ultimately his promotion being deferred indefinitely. His grind-longer strategy backfired, cementing him in his current role and delaying his financial independence, all because he confused effort with effective output. This brings us to a pervasive myth that grinding longer automatically equals more output. The grim reality of the status quo is that pushing through fatigue consistently leads to escalating errors, diminished judgment, and eventual burnout, actively sabotaging your career strategy and your journey to financial freedom. Many professionals discover that their efforts become less potent, not more, when powered by an empty tank. Think of the critical planning for a job escape, or the delicate nuances of a negotiation where your mental clarity is compromised due to exhaustion. This can lead to costly mistakes or missed opportunities. The first thing to grasp is that your energy is a finite resource, and strategic replenishment is as vital as focused effort. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their proactive energy management, understanding that true peak performance requires intelligent breaks, not just relentless pushing. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that these brief, intentional pauses aren't time lost. They are cognitive resets that dramatically increase the quality and speed of your subsequent output. Take a moment to consider how often pushing through fatigue has actually cost you more time, quality, or even opportunities, rather than gaining them. One shift that accelerates progress is to deliberately weave restorative periods into your workflow. To begin, your micro-action today is precise. Plan one 15-minute energy break into your morning schedule. Your capacity for sustained high-value work is directly proportional to your commitment to intelligent recovery. Re-energize to excel. Let's build directly on what we uncovered, turning our attention to another powerful myth: the idea that everyone peaks at the same time. The challenging status quo is that forcing high-level, cognitively demanding work during your personal low-energy periods is a recipe for inefficiency, frustration, and often mediocre results. Many professionals discover they're constantly fighting themselves, needlessly expending mental energy. Consider an individual whose natural peak energy is early morning, yet they schedule their most complex analytical tasks or skill stacking sessions for late afternoon after a draining day of meetings. The result isn't just slower progress, it's often a lower quality output, requiring rework, which directly impacts their earning power, delays crucial client acquisition, and hinders their ability to build a robust job escape runway. Think of the moment when you've tried to tackle a critical budget review or prepare for a high-stakes negotiation when your mind felt foggy. The mental friction is immense, leading to costly mistakes or missed strategic insights. The first thing to grasp is that your internal biological clock, your unique chronotype, dictates when your brain is naturally most alert, focused, and creative. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their self-awareness and intentional scheduling, aligning their highest leverage tasks with their individual peak performance windows. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that lighter administrative tasks or communicative work are perfect for those lower energy periods, preserving your prime time for work that truly moves the needle on your career strategy. Take a moment to consider if you're currently fighting your natural energy rhythm and what that might be costing you. To unlock your personal peak performance, your micro action today is to simply track your energy levels. A quick mental note on a scale of 1 to 10 every hour for the next 3 hours. Optimizing your daily schedule to your unique energy cycles is a profound leverage point for amplified output. Know your rhythm, master your output. There's a deeper layer worth exploring, confronting the persistent myth that naps are for the lazy. This outdated belief often perpetuates a harmful status quo, ignoring your body's natural need for short, strategic recovery periods, ultimately leading to diminished performance and mental exhaustion. Many professionals discover they push through a mid-afternoon slump, opting for another coffee or sugary snack, believing true dedication means constant activity. Consider a software developer trying to debug a complex code late in the day, their eyes blurring, their logic faltering. A small error, born of fatigue, can cost hours of rework, directly impacting project timelines and their perceived competence, ultimately affecting their earning power and ability to advance. Or think of a solo entrepreneur attempting to craft a crucial client acquisition strategy when their brain feels foggy. The lack of clarity leads to suboptimal decisions, stalling their income growth and runway building. The first thing to grasp is that a brief, intentional power nap isn't laziness. It's a scientifically proven method for cognitive reset and performance enhancement. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that these short recovery periods act as a powerful leverage tool, allowing them to return to high-level work with renewed focus and creativity. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that the cost of pushing through fatigue, in terms of errors, wasted time, and reduced decision quality, far outweighs the perceived loss of 15 minutes. Take a moment to consider how often you've powered through a slump only to find yourself making avoidable mistakes or feeling less sharp than you could be. One shift that accelerates progress is embracing strategic rest. If you feel a midday slump today, your micro-action is clear. Try a 15-minute power nap. Find a quiet spot, set an alarm, and allow your mind to briefly reset. Strategic rest is not a concession. It's an investment in your mental capital and sustained high performance. Recharge to rebuild, rest to excel. This insight naturally leads us forward, challenging a pervasive myth that coffee is a complete solution to energy dips. The uncomfortable truth of the status quo is that relying solely on stimulants while maintaining a poor diet inevitably leads to energy crashes, brain fog, and significantly compromised cognitive function, directly impacting your capacity for high-value work. Many professionals discover they're caught in a cycle of artificial highs and lows, always chasing the next caffeine fix to overcome the afternoon slump. Consider a financial planner trying to analyze complex market data, whose focus wavers because they started the day with sugary cereal and are now experiencing a blood sugar crash. This directly impacts their ability to make sound decisions, provide high-quality advice, and ultimately grow their earning power. Think of the moment when budget stress feels amplified simply because your brain is sluggish, making careful review an unbearable chore. Suboptimal nutrition hinders skill stacking and delays runway building by impairing clarity and endurance. The first thing to grasp is that your brain is an organ, and like any organ, its performance is directly tied to the fuel you provide. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that sustained mental energy comes from balanced, whole food nutrition, not just stimulants. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that those energy crashes aren't inevitable. They're often a direct consequence of what you've consumed, leading to poor negotiation outcomes or missed opportunities for client acquisition. Take a moment to notice where you might be using quick fixes instead of addressing the root cause of your energy fluctuations. One shift that accelerates progress is to make deliberate, small nutritional upgrades. To begin, your micro-action today is simple. Replace just one sugary snack with a handful of nutrient-dense nuts. Fuel your body with intention. Power your mind with clarity. Nourish to flourish. Now here's where the real shift begins. Understanding that exercise isn't merely about physical fitness. Many professionals operate under the misconception that a sedentary lifestyle is a badge of honor, proof of dedication to their desk. Yet, the truth is, prolonged sitting actively drains your energy, dulls your creative edge, and ultimately limits your earning potential. Consider a time when mental fatigue made a critical negotiation feel like scaling a wall, or when a lack of sustained focus hindered your ability to acquire new clients. Your physical state directly impacts your cognitive horsepower, which is your most valuable asset in the modern economy. One shift that accelerates progress is integrating micro-movements. The first thing to grasp is that a brisk 15-minute walk during your lunch break isn't just about getting steps in. It's a strategic energy reset. This short burst of activity oxygenates your brain, reduces cortisol, and primes you for an afternoon of higher quality decision-making, sharper problem-solving, and improved communication skills. What separates consistent earners from the rest is not just their knowledge, but their stamina to apply it effectively, day in and day out. This daily ritual isn't an indulgence, it's a non-negotiable component of peak performance. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that this small investment of time yields disproportionate returns in mental clarity, making complex skill acquisition or strategic exit planning feel less daunting and more achievable. Take a moment to consider how often your physical energy dictated the quality of your work output or your engagement with a critical opportunity. Prioritizing your physical vitality directly fuels your intellectual and financial ascent. Move to master. Chapter 4. The No Manifesto. Setting Boundaries That Build Empires. Many professionals fall into the trap of believing that saying yes to every request, every task, every favor is the path to career advancement. Consider Michael, a rising talent in a demanding marketing firm. He prided himself on being the go-to guy, always available, always agreeable. What started as helpfulness soon became a burden. He found himself constantly swamped with urgent yet often low-impact tasks from colleagues and even his boss, all while his own critical, high-leverage projects, the ones that would actually move his career forward and increase his earning power, languished. He hit a burnout cycle, felt deeply resentful, and his career plowed not because of a lack of skill, but a lack of strategic focus. His overcommitment directly diluted his ability to truly excel. This illustrates the dangerous myth that saying yes always opens doors. Often, it just opens the door for others to consume your most precious resource, your focused time. The first thing to grasp is that your time is a finite, non-renewable asset, directly tied to your capacity for high-value output. What separates consistent earners from the rest is not their willingness to do more, but their discipline in doing less of what doesn't matter, thus freeing them to do more of what truly moves the needle. Take a moment to recall a time when saying yes out of habit cost you more than it gained. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that a well-placed no to a low-priority request isn't a rejection of the person, but an affirmation of your strategic priorities and your commitment to high-impact work. This creates the leverage you need for career strategy and income growth. To begin this shift, identify one low-priority request you're currently delaying or dreading. Instead of passively procrastinating, make the active choice to decline or delegate it. This small act immediately frees up mental and actual bandwidth. Your boundaries define your fortune. There's a deeper layer worth exploring when it comes to the power of no. Many professionals struggle with the notion that saying no is inherently rude or risks alienating colleagues and superiors. This fear of conflict often leads to a default yes, sacrificing personal priorities and strategic objectives for the sake of perceived politeness. Think of the moment when a colleague asked for just a quick favor, which then morphed into hours of your time, pulling you away from a critical project related to your income growth or a crucial negotiation you were preparing for. This constant yielding dilutes your focus and capacity, preventing you from stacking high-value skills or developing the leverage needed for an exit plan. The first thing to grasp is that a polite, firm no is not rude. It's a clear demonstration of professional boundaries and strategic focus. It communicates that you value your time and expertise, which paradoxically often earns more respect than being perpetually available. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that their capacity is finite and must be allocated to high-impact activities. Many professionals discover that continually saying yes to low-priority requests results in chronic budget stress from underperforming on their own goals, not because of a lack of effort, but a misdirection of it. One shift that accelerates progress is moving from reactive acceptance to proactive boundary setting. To begin this, practice a polite no script in your head for 2 minutes. Formulate a simple, respectful refusal, such as, "I appreciate you thinking of me, but my plate is full with existing priorities right now," or "I'm unable to take that on, but I can suggest someone else." Internalizing these phrases reduces the friction and anxiety associated with setting limits. Take a moment to consider what opportunities you might have missed by saying yes out of obligation. Mastering the polite refusal empowers you to build with intention. Your boundaries are your blueprint. Now here's where the real shift begins, challenging the pervasive myth that your time is always negotiable. Many professionals operate under the unspoken assumption that allowing interruptions during their most important work is an unavoidable part of the job. Think of the moment when you were deeply immersed in a high-leverage task, perhaps crafting a crucial client proposal, analyzing market data for an investment decision, or developing a new skill vital for your career strategy, only to be constantly derailed by pings, emails, or quick questions. This status quo of fragmented attention doesn't just slow you down, it fundamentally undermines your capacity to produce high-quality work, diminishing your earning power and delaying your progress toward building a runway for job escape. The first thing to grasp is the profound cost of these interruptions. It's not just the minutes spent answering a trivial email, it's the 15 to 20 minutes it takes your brain to fully re-engage with the complex task at hand. This constant context switching leads to errors, reduces creativity, and significantly extends project timelines. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their unwavering defense of focused blocks of time for their most critical, high-impact activities. Many professionals discover that their inability to develop essential market skills or execute complex exit plans stems directly from this unmanaged fragmentation of their days. One shift that accelerates progress is actively reclaiming your focus. This is precisely why blocking out 1 hour in your calendar as Do Not Disturb isn't just a suggestion, it's a strategic imperative. This hour is sacred time for deep work, for tackling the projects that genuinely move your career forward or build your financial freedom. It communicates a powerful boundary, not just to others, but to yourself, that this work is too important to be diluted. Take a moment to consider how many vital tasks in your past week were undermined by this subtle yet destructive negotiation of your time. Protecting your focus time is the ultimate act of self-leadership and the bedrock of significant achievement. Deep work, deep wealth. Moving from theory into practice, let's dismantle a pervasive myth that silently sabotages ambition, the belief that it's always quicker to just do it yourself. This mindset leads to a status quo where many professionals hoard tasks that others could easily handle, creating a bottleneck for their own growth and income. Think of the moment when you spent an hour wrestling with a minor administrative detail, a spreadsheet formatting issue, or scheduling logistics, knowing deep down that a junior team member or virtual assistant could have done it in a fraction of the time. This unconscious habit of performing low-value work prevents you from focusing on high-leverage activities like negotiating a salary increase, mastering a new market skill, or strategizing your path to financial freedom. The first thing to grasp is the opportunity cost of this self-reliance. Every minute spent on a task someone else could do is a minute not spent on building your runway, acquiring new clients, or developing the strategic foresight needed for job escape. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their keen understanding of leverage, their ability to multiply their impact by delegating effectively, thus freeing themselves for work that only they can do. Many professionals discover that their progress toward career strategy and income growth stalls, not from a lack of effort, but from a misallocation of their most valuable resource, their focused attention. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously identifying tasks that can be outsourced or delegated. To start, list 2 tasks you could delegate to someone else this week. These might be personal errands, email organization, research, or anything that doesn't directly utilize your unique high-level skills. Consider how many times this do-it-yourself mentality has unknowingly capped your potential. Releasing these tasks creates space for genuine growth and impact. Delegate to elevate. This insight naturally leads us forward to another critical component of the No Manifesto, the misconception that boundaries create distance. Many professionals fear that setting clear limits will alienate colleagues, bosses, or even clients, leading to a status quo of blurred lines, constant availability, and ultimately, personal and professional chaos. Think of the moment when after-hours emails from your boss became the norm, or weekend client calls started encroaching on your crucial family time, leaving you drained and resentful. This lack of clear limits doesn't just impact your personal life. It directly erodes your capacity for high-value work, impacting your ability to execute a sound career strategy, develop new market skills, or build the financial runway necessary for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that well-defined boundaries don't push people away. They establish respect and clarity. They communicate that you value your time, your focus, and your well-being, which in turn elevates how others perceive your professionalism and expertise. What separates consistent earners from the rest is not their infinite availability, but their strategic preservation of energy for their most impactful contributions. Many professionals discover that constant encroachment on their personal time leads to burnout, which then impacts their ability to negotiate effectively or make clear-headed decisions about their financial future. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that these boundaries protect the very mental space required for skill stacking and strategic thinking. Without them, you're constantly reactive, unable to dedicate the focused attention needed for true income growth. To make this practical, define one personal boundary you will enforce this week. This could be no work emails after 6 p.m. or designating your lunch hour as completely uninterrupted personal time. Take a moment to consider how much more impactful your work and personal life could be if these vital lines were consistently held. Enforcing your limits empowers your empire, your boundaries, your power. Chapter 5. The Automation Ascension, Systemizing Your Escape from Mundane Tasks. Consider Sarah, a marketing coordinator who dreamt of launching her own online venture. Each day, she spent over an hour manually compiling social media reports, copying data from one platform to another, then meticulously pasting it into a master spreadsheet. She knew this was busy work, but felt obligated to do it personally for accuracy. This hour, compounded daily, meant she constantly deferred learning new digital advertising skills or strategizing her own business plan. Her salary remained stagnant, her burnout increased, and her dream of financial independence felt like a distant mirage, primarily because she was trapped by tasks that stole her time and mental energy. Take a moment to notice where this principle of manual repetition already shows up in your own daily decisions. This common scenario perfectly illustrates the myth that everything requires your personal, hands-on effort. The status quo for many professionals is wasting hours, even days, each week on repetitive, automatable tasks. This isn't just inefficient, it's a direct assault on your earning power and your capacity to build a robust financial runway. The first thing to grasp is that your time is your most valuable, non-renewable resource, and dedicating it to drudgery is a missed opportunity for higher leverage work. Many professionals discover that their career strategy stalls and their income growth plateaus precisely because they are too busy performing tasks that a simple system or tool could handle. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ability to identify and delegate or automate these low-value activities. They understand that true productivity isn't about doing more, but about doing the right things and leveraging technology to handle the rest. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously identifying these recurring time sinks. Your micro action for today is to track one recurring task you do for 15 minutes. Just observe it. This observation is the first step toward transforming your workflow. Stop doing, start building systems. Let's build directly on what we uncovered regarding reclaiming your time. The next hurdle many professionals face is the myth that automation is too complex, a realm reserved only for tech experts. This belief leads to a detrimental status quo, actively avoiding technology that could, in fact, free up vast amounts of their valuable time. Think of the moment when your email inbox became a bottomless pit, overflowing with subscriptions, notifications, and low-priority messages. Manually sifting through this digital clutter daily isn't just a time drain. It's a constant friction point that prevents focused work on high-value tasks, hindering your income growth and delaying your financial freedom. Many professionals discover that neglecting simple automation tools forces them into a reactive mode, constantly playing catch-up, which impacts their ability to strategize for career advancements or even prepare for crucial negotiations with their boss. The first thing to grasp is that the complexity often exists more in perception than in reality. Automation isn't about coding intricate systems, it's about simple rules and tools readily available. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their willingness to invest a small amount of learning time now for a substantial return in liberated time later. This strategic embrace of efficiency builds genuine leverage. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that every minute you spend on repetitive, manual tasks is a minute you could be skill stacking, researching market opportunities, or actively building your runway. Your reluctance to explore these tools might stem from a fear of breaking something, or perhaps just inertia, but the cost of inaction is far greater. To begin, take a moment to consider how much mental energy your overflowing inbox currently consumes. Then, for your micro-action, research one simple automation tool for your email inbox. This could be setting up basic filters, an unsubscribe assistant, or a send later feature. Even a small step here can profoundly impact your daily focus and productivity. Embrace technology not as a challenge, but as a strategic partner in your pursuit of financial freedom. Automate to liberate. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about automating mundane tasks. A subtle yet powerful myth holds many professionals captive: the idea that constant personal oversight is always necessary. This belief leads to a status quo of micromanaging processes that could easily run autonomously, silently siphoning off valuable mental energy and time. Think of the moment when you manually paid a recurring bill, checking it off a mental list week after week, month after month. This seemingly small act, multiplied across dozens of personal and professional obligations, creates a constant low-level mental hum, detracting from your ability to focus on high-leverage activities like market analysis for your next investment or developing critical skills for your career strategy. The first thing to grasp is the true cost of this manual babysitting. It's not just the few minutes spent on the task itself, but the cognitive load of remembering, planning, and executing it. This constant vigilance prevents you from engaging in the deep work required for significant income growth or effectively building your financial runway for job escape. Many professionals discover that their budget stress often stems not just from income, but from errors or missed opportunities because their mental bandwidth is consumed by mundane oversight. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ability to trust in intelligent systems. They recognize that leveraging automation for predictable, recurring processes frees their minds for complex problem solving, creative strategy, and high stakes negotiation. This creates profound leverage. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that this principle applies powerfully to your personal finances. Automating routine financial tasks is a foundational step in mastering your money and building a robust financial future. For your micro action, automate one recurring bill payment today. Take a moment to consider the peace of mind and mental space this single action could consistently create. Trust the system, empower your mind. Automate to elevate. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about leveraging automation. There's a pervasive myth that only large companies or complex operations truly need sophisticated systems. This belief keeps many professionals trapped in a status quo of relying on memory for routine tasks, which inevitably causes errors, inconsistencies, and a constant drain on mental energy. Think of the moment when you drafted a crucial client update or an internal project report from scratch, only to realize you forgot a key detail from the last communication, or the subtle inconsistencies in your outreach to potential partners because each message was a fresh improvisation. These small, preventable errors erode trust, waste valuable time in corrections, and directly impact your professional standing, hindering client acquisition, negotiation power, and ultimately your income growth. Take a moment to consider the cumulative stress and wasted time these small, manual repetitions have cost you over a year. The first thing to grasp is that personal systems are your secret weapon for consistency, reliability, and mental bandwidth. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their recognition that even small internal processes contribute to their overall market value and create the leverage needed for job escape. This isn't about rigid bureaucracy. It's about intelligent efficiency. One shift that accelerates progress is understanding that every template you create is a documented process, a piece of intellectual leverage you build for yourself. For your micro action today, create a simple template for a recurring email or document. This could be a weekly team update, a client onboarding message, or a standard inquiry response. This small step frees your mind to focus on high-level strategy and skill stacking, rather than reinventing the wheel daily. Systemize the small, conquer the big. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about leveraging automation. There's a widespread myth that every project, every deliverable, requires a fresh start, a blank page. This belief perpetuates a costly status quo where professionals constantly reinvent the wheel for common workflows, unknowingly sacrificing precious time and mental energy. Think of the moment when you drafted a new client proposal, created a quarterly report, or developed an internal training document, starting from scratch each time. This repetitive effort doesn't just waste hours. It creates inconsistency, introduces errors, and prevents you from focusing on high-leverage activities that truly move your career forward, like mastering new market skills or strategizing for your financial runway. The first thing to grasp is that your time spent on routine tasks, even if well executed, detracts from your capacity for innovative thought and strategic growth. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their recognition that every repeatable process is an opportunity for systemization, for creating a reusable asset. This frees them to focus on unique problem solving, critical client acquisition, or complex negotiation. Many professionals discover that their progress toward income growth and job escape is often bottlenecked, not by a lack of ideas, but by the sheer volume of their self-imposed, repetitive manual labor. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that templates are not shortcuts for laziness. They are powerful tools for efficiency, consistency, and scalability. They enable you to produce high-quality work faster, reducing friction and increasing your overall output. One shift that accelerates progress is moving from a build-from-scratch mindset to a build-once, use-often philosophy. For your micro-action, convert a recent document you created, perhaps a meeting agenda, a project brief, or an email to a frequent contact, into a reusable template. Take a moment to reflect on how much time you've spent this past month on tasks that could have been templated. Build your systems, then build your empire. Template for triumph. Chapter 6. The Batching Blitzkrieg, Crushing Interruptions and Regaining Flow. Imagine Sarah, an ambitious software developer, determined to learn a new, high-demand programming language to break through her current salary ceiling and eventually launch her own consulting firm. She'd carve out deep work blocks, but every 15 minutes, her phone would buzz with a new email, a Slack message, or a news alert. Just a quick check, she'd tell herself. That quick check would turn into a 5-minute reply, followed by a rabbit hole of notifications, and by the time she refocused, the intricate code she was trying to master felt distant again. Her progress was glacial, her skill-stacking efforts stalled, and her dream of building a financial runway for job escape felt perpetually out of reach. This wasn't a lack of talent or effort, it was the insidious drain of constant self-inflicted interruptions. Take a moment to notice where this principle of fragmented attention already shows up in your own daily decisions. This common scenario reveals the myth that quick checks are harmless. The status quo for many professionals is a continuous cycle of constantly switching tasks, which systematically destroys focus and efficiency. This isn't merely an inconvenience, it directly impacts your earning power by diluting the quality of your output and extending timelines on high-leverage projects like client acquisition or strategic planning. The first thing to grasp is the profound cognitive cost of context switching. Each interruption can take up to 20 minutes to recover from, making true deep work almost impossible. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their disciplined approach to managing their attention, treating focus as a finite, precious resource. Many professionals discover that their inability to accelerate career strategy or prepare for crucial negotiations stems from this internal friction. One shift that accelerates progress is moving from reactive response to proactive scheduling. To apply this, schedule specific, dedicated times to check email, perhaps at 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. This micro-action creates protected blocks of uninterrupted time for high-value tasks, allowing you to regain flow and build genuine momentum. Own your attention, own your outcome, batch to conquer. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about crushing interruptions. There's a pervasive myth that instant replies are always expected, fostering a culture of immediate email reaction. This leads to a detrimental status quo where professionals constantly react to every email as it arrives, losing hours of focused work and productivity throughout their day. Think of the moment when you received an email notification, paused your critical project, perhaps building a financial model for your runway or strategizing your career escape, to respond, only to find yourself caught in a flurry of subsequent messages, completely derailing your flow. This isn't just a time sink, it's a profound impediment to high-value skill stacking and income growth. The first thing to grasp is that most emails do not require an instant response, despite the perceived urgency. This constant context switching fragments your attention, making it nearly impossible to engage in the deep, concentrated work necessary for career advancement or effective client acquisition. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate control over their inbox, rather than being controlled by it. Many professionals discover that their negotiation mistakes or difficulties in developing new market skills often stem from this inability to protect their cognitive bandwidth. One shift that accelerates progress is moving from reactive email management to a strategic, batched approach. Your micro-action today is to dedicate a focused 15 minutes to clearing your inbox using the 4 Ds. Delete unnecessary emails immediately. Do those that take less than 2 minutes. Delegate emails to the appropriate person if it's not your task. And defer anything else by adding it to your task list for a later, dedicated block. Take a moment to consider the sheer volume of fragmented time you've lost to this constant email reactivity. This disciplined approach reclaims hours, allowing you to invest in truly impactful work. Master your inbox, master your time. Respond strategically. Moving from theory into practice, let's confront a deeply ingrained myth that being always available equates to being productive. This belief traps many professionals in a debilitating status quo, allowing constant pings and notifications to fragment their days into a series of shallow reactions. Think of the moment when you were deeply immersed in building a complex financial model, strategizing your career escape, or crafting a crucial client proposal, only to be pulled out by a trivial notification from Slack, email, or a news app. This continuous fragmentation ensures your deepest, most valuable work, the kind that truly moves the needle for income growth, skill stacking, or building your runway, gets constantly diluted and delayed. The first thing to grasp is that true productivity thrives on sustained, uninterrupted focus. Each notification isn't just a brief interruption. It's a context switch that costs valuable mental energy and often takes significant time to fully recover from. This directly impacts your earning power by diminishing the quality and speed of your output. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their disciplined ability to carve out and protect blocks of deep work. Many professionals discover that their inability to develop new market skills or make clear-headed decisions about risky transitions often stems from this pervasive digital distraction. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that controlling your digital environment is a fundamental act of strategic self-management. This creates the leverage you need to proactively execute your career strategy rather than just reacting to external demands. For your micro-action, mute notifications for non-urgent communication apps for 2 hours. Take a moment to consider how much more impactful your work could be if these vital pockets of focus were consistently protected. Protecting these sacred blocks of focus is an investment in your mental capital and your financial future. Focus fuels fortune. With that foundation in place, let's address another critical myth: the belief that each task is entirely unique and must be tackled individually. This often leads to a status quo of inefficiently handling disparate tasks one by one, dramatically increasing setup time and cognitive load. Think of the moment when you made a quick client call, then switched to drafting an email, then went back to research, only to find yourself repeating similar mental processes, logging into different systems, and constantly shifting gears. This fragmented approach isn't just inefficient, it drains your mental energy, reduces your capacity for high-value skill stacking, and ultimately slows your progress toward income growth and building your financial runway. The first thing to grasp is that your brain performs more efficiently when it stays within a single context. Each time you switch from calls to writing to research, there's a significant mental reboot cost. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their strategic understanding of batching, grouping similar tasks together to capitalize on mental momentum and reduce friction. Many professionals discover that their career strategy often feels like a constant uphill battle because they're constantly resetting their focus, which impacts everything from client acquisition to effective negotiation. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that this approach isn't about rushing, it's about smart sequencing. By minimizing setup time, you create more space for deep work and strategic thinking. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously identifying tasks that share a common context or mental state. For your micro-action, group 3 similar tasks, perhaps all your outgoing calls, all your routine emails, or all your administrative errands, and commit to doing them consecutively in one dedicated block. Take a moment to consider how much more impactful your focus could be if you consistently honored these natural groupings. Context equals efficiency. Batch for breakthrough. This insight naturally leads us forward to confront a common yet damaging myth: the idea that strict schedules stifle creativity. Many professionals valuing spontaneity and innovation fall into the status quo of operating without a plan, believing it keeps their options open. Yet this often leads directly to reactive chaos, a constant state of firefighting that paradoxically smothers genuine creativity and strategic thought. Think of the moment when you needed to develop an innovative solution for a client or strategize your next career move for income growth, but your day was a blur of responding to urgent emails and unplanned interruptions. This disorganization isn't freedom. It's a cage that prevents you from building critical skills, securing high-value clients, or effectively planning your financial runway. The first thing to grasp is that true creativity doesn't emerge from chaos, but often flourishes within structured space. When your basic operational tasks are handled systematically, your mind is liberated for deeper, more complex problem solving. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that imposing structure on the mundane frees their mental energy for high-leverage activities. Many professionals discover that their inability to stack new market skills or make clear-headed decisions about risky transitions stems not from a lack of talent, but from the constant internal friction of an unstructured day. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously dedicating time to administrative necessities. This allows your creative and strategic faculties to operate unburdened. Take a moment to consider how much genuine creative freedom your current unstructured approach actually allows. For your micro-action, plan to batch your administrative tasks, like email responses, calendar updates, or filing, for a dedicated 30 minutes tomorrow. This small act of proactive scheduling is not a constraint. It's an investment in the mental capital required for true innovation and financial independence. Structure fuels freedom. Chapter 7. The Future Self-Architect, Designing Your Week for Unstoppable Progress. Consider David, a mid-career professional aiming to pivot into a higher-paying tech role. Every Sunday night, he'd feel a surge of good intentions, vowing to dedicate hours to online courses and networking. But Monday morning would hit, and he'd wake up without a clear roadmap. His week would quickly devolve into reacting to urgent emails, unplanned meetings, and colleagues' requests. By Friday, exhausted, he'd realize he'd made almost no progress on his strategic goals. No new skill acquisition, no significant networking, no movement on building his financial runway. He wasn't lazy. He was simply letting the currents of daily demands dictate his direction, constantly putting out fires instead of building the future he desired. This planning on the fly felt agile, but in reality, it was a recipe for stress and stagnation. Take a moment to consider how often your week feels dictated by external demands, rather than your own intentional design. This scenario exposes the myth that planning on the fly is true agility. In fact, the status quo of starting the week without clear direction invariably leads to stress, diluted efforts, and a profound lack of progress on your most important goals. The first thing to grasp is that true agility isn't about reacting quickly. It's about having a strong, flexible framework that allows you to adapt strategically. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their proactive approach to shaping their time, ensuring that high-leverage activities like skill stacking or client acquisition don't get sidelined by daily noise. Many professionals discover that their struggle with income growth or building a runway for job escape stems directly from this reactive cycle. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that designing your week isn't about rigid constraints. It's about creating intentional freedom for what truly matters. It's an act of architecting your future self. One shift that accelerates progress is moving from vague intentions to concrete weekly targets. For your micro-action, spend 15 minutes today outlining your top 3 goals for next week. These aren't daily tasks, but the high-impact outcomes you want to achieve. This small investment creates profound clarity and purpose. Design your week, design your destiny. This insight naturally leads us forward to dismantle another subtle but potent myth. The idea that goals are just wishful thinking, distant aspirations with little bearing on daily action. This belief often traps professionals in a status quo of simply filling their calendars with busy work, neglecting the truly important aspirations that could transform their career and financial future. Think of the moment when you spent hours organizing your email inbox or attending non-essential meetings, while the online course for a high-demand skill or the research for a strategic investment sat untouched. This incessant focus on the urgent, without connecting it to the important, prevents meaningful skill stacking, delays income growth, and leaves your financial runway unbuilt. The first thing to grasp is that without a clear, intentional connection between your daily tasks and your overarching goals, you simply drift. Your energy is dissipated, and your efforts rarely compound into significant progress. Many professionals discover that their struggle to achieve financial freedom or escape a stagnant job stems not from a lack of desire, but from a disconnect between their immediate actions and their long-term vision. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their unwavering commitment to purpose-driven activity. They understand that every task, however small, should ideally serve a larger objective. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that clarity of purpose transforms busy work into meaningful action. For your micro-action, connect one weekly task, any task, to a larger personal goal. For example, if your goal is a promotion, make sure a meeting you attend ties directly to a project that showcases your leadership. Or if it's building your runway, link a budgeting review to your specific savings target. Take a moment to consider the profound shift in motivation that occurs when your daily grind serves a clear, compelling future. This conscious connection injects purpose into every hour. Link your labor, ignite your legacy. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about intentional weekly design. A significant barrier to unstoppable progress is the pervasive myth that reflection is a waste of time, an indulgence when there's always more to do. This belief traps many in a detrimental status quo, repeating mistakes without learning from past performance, both professionally and personally. Think of the moment when you found yourself making the same budget miscalculation month after month, or consistently underestimating the time a key client project would take, leading to missed deadlines and unnecessary stress. This cyclical pattern, unexamined, directly impacts your income growth, prevents effective skill stacking, and delays building the financial runway needed for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that time spent on critical self-assessment is not wasted. It is an investment in future efficiency and wisdom. Without it, you operate blind, unable to refine your career strategy or understand why certain negotiations falter. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate practice of reviewing their actions and outcomes, transforming experience into expertise. Many professionals discover that their plateau in earning power isn't due to a lack of effort, but a lack of intentional learning from their efforts. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that this reflective practice sharpens your decision-making abilities, creating profound leverage for future choices. It allows you to identify patterns, correct course, and anticipate challenges before they arise. One shift that accelerates progress is integrating a brief, structured review into your weekly routine. For your micro-action, dedicate 15 minutes to review your past week's achievements and challenges. What went well? What didn't? What could be improved? Take a moment to consider the profound compound effect this small act of learning could have over a year. Reflection refines direction. Learn from your ledger, build your legacy. Now here's where the real shift begins, moving beyond reactive problem solving. We must dismantle the myth that you must fix issues only as they arise. This deeply ingrained belief traps many professionals in a debilitating status quo, constantly reacting to emergencies instead of strategically preventing them. Think of the moment when a critical project deadline loomed and suddenly a familiar bottleneck appeared, requiring frantic last-minute work, late nights, or even missed opportunities for skill stacking. This pattern of always being in firefighting mode doesn't just create stress, it actively hinders your income growth, undermines your career strategy, and makes building a robust financial runway an exhausting, uphill battle. The first thing to grasp is that prevention is profoundly more efficient and less costly than reaction. Every minute spent anticipating a problem saves exponential time and energy later. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their foresight. They actively identify potential friction points and address them proactively. Many professionals discover that their inability to accelerate their career, escape, or achieve financial freedom often stems from a constant drain of energy on preventable issues. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that proactive problem solving builds resilience and leverage. It allows you to maintain control rather than being at the mercy of unforeseen challenges. This creates mental space for high-value work. One shift that accelerates progress is integrating foresight into your weekly planning. For your micro-action, identify one potential roadblock you foresee for next week. Whether it's a tricky client interaction, a complex budget challenge, or a potential scheduling conflict. Then, brainstorm at least one concrete solution or mitigation strategy before it occurs. Take a moment to consider the profound sense of control this small act of preparation can grant you. Anticipate to activate, prevent to prosper. Moving from theory into practice, let's confront a deeply ingrained myth: the idea that a perfect week is unrealistic. This belief traps many professionals in a debilitating status quo, allowing external demands to dictate their entire schedule. Think of the moment when your week felt like a chaotic pinball game, bouncing from one urgent request to another, leaving no time for the deep work needed to master a new skill, cultivate high-value client relationships, or strategically build your financial runway for job escape. This constant reactivity prevents you from steering your own career strategy, often leading to burnout and missed opportunities for significant income growth. The first thing to grasp is that designing an ideal week isn't about achieving an unattainable perfection, but about establishing an intentional framework. It's a blueprint for where you want your energy to go, creating the leverage necessary to proactively steer your career and financial future. What separates consistent earners from the rest is not their ability to avoid all distractions, but their disciplined commitment to protecting core blocks of time for high-impact activities. Many professionals discover that their income growth plateaus precisely because they never allocate dedicated space for strategic work amidst the daily noise. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that this proactive design provides a profound sense of control and reduces decision fatigue, freeing up mental bandwidth for genuine creativity and sustained effort. For your micro-action, dedicate just 15 minutes today to map out your ideal, recurring weekly schedule. Block out time for deep work, skill development, focused communication, and personal well-being. This isn't a rigid prison, it's a flexible vision. Take a moment to notice how much more empowered you would feel if even half of your week aligned with your ideal design. This deliberate act of architectural planning ensures your most valuable goals get the attention they deserve. Design your week. Define your life. Chapter 8: The Procrastination Annihilator: Triggers, Tools, and Triumphs. Consider Mark, a talented graphic designer who desperately wanted to launch his own side hustle to supplement his income and eventually escape his demanding corporate job. He knew he needed to build a portfolio, create a website, and start reaching out to potential clients. But every morning, he'd wake up, feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the task, and wait for a burst of motivation that rarely came. Days turned into weeks, then months, as he scrolled social media or watched Netflix, believing he just wasn't feeling it. His dream of financial freedom remained just that, a dream, stalled indefinitely by the insidious myth that inspiration precedes action. His skill stacking stalled, his runway unbuilt, simply because he was waiting for a feeling. Take a moment to notice where this waiting for motivation pattern already shows up in your own decisions. This common scenario highlights the profound myth that you need motivation to start a task. The destructive status quo for many is waiting for inspiration to strike, leading to endless delays, missed opportunities, and a chronic sense of frustration. The first thing to grasp is that motivation often follows action rather than preceding it. This isn't just a clever saying. It's a fundamental principle of human psychology that, once understood, can unlock significant income growth and accelerate your career strategy. Many professionals discover that their inability to break through salary ceilings or execute risky transitions stems from this paralyzing waiting game. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that starting, even imperfectly, creates momentum. They don't wait for the stars to align. They initiate, and the energy follows. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that small, initial steps dramatically reduce the perceived threat of a large task, making it easier to overcome the inertia of procrastination. For your micro-action, pick one dreaded task you've been avoiding and commit to working on it for just 5 minutes, right now. This isn't about finishing it. It's about breaking the spell of inaction. Action activates motivation. Start to ignite. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about annihilating procrastination. There's a widespread myth that the most effective way to tackle big projects is to approach them as a single monumental whole. This belief leads to a detrimental status quo, constant overwhelm from large, intimidating tasks, which inevitably results in paralysis and delayed action. Think of the moment when you faced a complex financial report, a massive career transition plan, or a multi-stage client acquisition strategy. The sheer scale felt daunting, leading you to postpone to avoid because you couldn't see a clear path forward. This isn't just a minor roadblock. It's a significant impediment to skill stacking, income growth, and building your financial runway for true job escape. The first thing to grasp is that the human brain is wired to prefer manageable steps. When a task appears too large, our natural response is often to disengage. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their mastery of deconstruction. They instinctively break down intimidating goals into digestible, actionable pieces. Many professionals discover that their inability to move forward with a risky transition or to develop new market skills often stems from a lack of clarity on the very first step. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that small wins build momentum and confidence. Each completed subtask provides a psychological boost, making the next step easier. One shift that accelerates progress is moving from broad objectives to specific granular actions. For your microaction, pick one large task you're currently avoiding and break it down into 3 smaller, immediately actionable steps. For instance, instead of build a website, your first step might be research 3 website platforms. Take a moment to consider the immediate relief and clarity this simple act of division can provide. Divide to conquer, break it down, build it up. This insight naturally leads us forward to explore a powerful, yet often overlooked tool in annihilating procrastination. There's a widespread myth that rewards are just for children, an unsophisticated form of motivation. This belief leads to a detrimental status quo, consistently failing to acknowledge small wins, which silently diminishes your intrinsic drive and makes overcoming inertia incredibly difficult. Think of the moment when you completed a tedious but necessary task, like balancing your budget or researching a complex market skill. Instead of a moment of satisfaction, you immediately moved to the next item on the list, or felt a vague sense of inadequacy for not having done more. This lack of positive reinforcement makes it harder to initiate the next challenge, hindering income growth, effective skill stacking, and the consistent progress needed to build your financial runway. The first thing to grasp is that our brains are hardwired for reward. Dopamine, the neurochemical associated with pleasure and motivation, is released when we achieve something, however small. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their conscious effort to create positive feedback loops that reinforce productive behavior. Many professionals discover that their struggle with client acquisition friction or sticking to a rigorous career strategy often stems from a failure to celebrate incremental victories. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that small, immediate rewards retrain your brain to associate effort with pleasure, making future tasks less daunting. This is a profound leverage point for self-motivation. One shift that accelerates progress is intentionally integrating these micro-rewards into your workflow. For your micro-action, after completing a 15-minute focused task, perhaps an email batch, or a small step on a larger project, give yourself a small, immediate reward. This could be a 5-minute break, a favorite song, a sip of a good coffee, or a quick glance at an inspiring image. Take a moment to consider how much more appealing difficult tasks would become if they were consistently followed by a positive experience. Reward your progress. Accelerate your triumph. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about annihilating procrastination. There's a pervasive myth that more options are always better, leading to greater freedom and better outcomes. In reality, for many professionals, this belief leads to a debilitating status quo where too many choices drain willpower, causing inaction and decision paralysis. Think of the moment when you needed to decide which new market skill to acquire or which financial tool to use for your runway building. The sheer number of choices, courses, platforms, mentors, investment vehicles felt so overwhelming that you ended up doing nothing at all. This inaction directly stalls your career strategy, delays income growth, and leaves your financial freedom goals unfulfilled. The first thing to grasp is that willpower is a finite resource. depleted by every decision, big or small. The more choices you face, the faster this resource is exhausted, leaving you vulnerable to procrastination. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate practice of minimizing inconsequential decisions to preserve willpower for truly strategic moves. Many professionals discover that their inability to move forward with a risky transition or effective client acquisition often stems from this crippling choice overload. Take a moment to notice where this principle of choice overload already shows up in your own decisions. One shift that accelerates progress is embracing the concept of good enough for low-stakes decisions, reserving mental energy for high-leverage choices like negotiation or complex problem-solving. For your micro-action, make one decision today quickly, without overthinking. This could be as simple as choosing your lunch or deciding which small email to tackle first. The goal is to break the cycle of analysis paralysis and build momentum. Cultivate the habit of swift, decisive action in the small things, and you'll find greater clarity for the large. Decide to advance. Now here's where the real shift begins, moving beyond individual willpower to harness a powerful external force. There's a pervasive myth that you must accomplish everything alone, that asking for help or involving others diminishes your personal strength. This belief traps many in a detrimental status quo, lacking external commitment, making it incredibly easy to give up on critical projects without consequence. Think of the moment when you started a new skill-stacking initiative, a complex financial planning spreadsheet for your runway, or even just researching a challenging market niche for your career strategy. Without anyone else knowing, it became all too simple to quietly abandon it when obstacles arose, stalling your income growth and dimming your job escape prospects. The first thing to grasp is that our innate desire for social approval, or even just avoiding mild embarrassment, is a potent motivator. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate use of this psychological leverage. Many professionals discover that their struggle with consistent follow-through on client acquisition or navigating risky career transitions stems from operating in a vacuum where there's no external pressure to perform. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that inviting external commitment isn't a sign of weakness. It's a strategic move to reinforce your own discipline. It creates an invisible support structure. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously sharing your intentions. For your micro-action, tell a trusted friend, colleague, or mentor about one specific task you will complete today. It doesn't need to be monumental, just a single, definable step. This small act immediately raises the stakes, making you far more likely to follow through. Take a moment to consider the number of times you've let yourself off the hook simply because no one else was watching. Leverage your network, fortify your resolve, commit to conquer. Chapter 9. The Delegation Dynamo, Multiplying Your Output Without Overwhelm. Consider Maria, a seasoned marketing executive who yearned to launch her own consulting business, but felt perpetually trapped by her 9-to-5. She prided herself on being hands-on, always believing it was faster to just do it herself than explain it to someone else. Consequently, her days were a blur of scheduling meetings, formatting reports, and managing email campaigns, tasks that were important but not high leverage for her career growth or entrepreneurial aspirations. She was constantly exhausted, her skill stacking stalled, and her financial runway remained a distant dream because she simply had no bandwidth for strategic thinking, client acquisition, or exit planning. Her expertise was bottlenecked by her inability to release control over lower-value activities. Take a moment to notice where this do-it-myself impulse already shows up in your own professional decisions. This scenario vividly illustrates the myth that it's always faster to do it all yourself. This belief leads to a crippling status quo, overloading your plate with tasks, which severely limits your capacity for genuine growth and high-impact work. The first thing to grasp is that your time is your most valuable asset, and spending it on tasks below your pay grade is a direct tax on your income growth and career strategy. Many professionals discover that their salary ceilings aren't due to a lack of talent, but a lack of effective leverage through delegation. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their acute awareness of their highest and best use. They strategically offload anything that doesn't directly contribute to their unique value proposition. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that delegation isn't merely about offloading. It's about multiplying your output and freeing your mental bandwidth for critical skill stacking and runway building. For your micro action, list 3 tasks you currently do, routinely, that are clearly below your pay grade. These might be administrative, repetitive, or easily outsourced. This simple act of identification is the first step toward reclaiming your time and energy. Delegate to elevate. Empower others. Empower yourself. With that foundation in place, let's challenge a deeply ingrained myth: the idea that delegation is only for managers. This belief traps countless individual professionals in a debilitating status quo, constantly performing tasks that could be easily outsourced or shared, simply because they don't recognize the opportunity or feel it's not their place. Think of the moment when you spent 15 minutes formatting a routine report, or an hour handling administrative minutiae, when that time could have been invested in skill stacking a new market competency, strategizing your next career move, or focusing on high-leverage client acquisition. This oversight directly limits your earning power and delays building your financial runway for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that delegation is a strategic tool for leverage, not a perk reserved for seniority. It's about optimizing your unique contribution and protecting your most valuable resource, focused time. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ability to identify and release tasks that don't require their specific expertise, freeing themselves for high-impact activities. Many professionals discover that their progress toward income growth often stagnates because they are bogged down in 20-an-hour tasks when their potential value is $200 an hour or more. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that every minute you spend on a task someone else could do effectively is a minute not spent on tasks that advance your career strategy or build your wealth. It's a hidden opportunity cost. For your micro action, identify one task you spend at least 15 minutes on this week that someone else, a junior colleague, a virtual assistant, or even a specialized app, could reasonably handle. Take a moment to consider the profound cumulative impact of reclaiming even 15 minutes a day from low-value activities. Strategic release accelerates your rise. Leverage your time, multiply your impact. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about the power of delegation. There's a prevalent myth in the professional world that people should just know how to do things, especially when it comes to common tasks. This belief traps many in a frustrating status quo, providing vague instructions that inevitably lead to errors, rework, and wasted time. Consider a time when you delegated a task, expecting a certain outcome, only to receive something entirely different because your instructions were ambiguous. This not only causes frustration, but directly impacts your career strategy, forcing you to spend valuable hours fixing mistakes instead of focusing on high-leverage activities like skill stacking or client acquisition. This inefficiency is a silent drain on your earning power and delays building your financial runway for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that what's obvious to you is rarely obvious to someone else. Your context, experience, and implicit knowledge are unique. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their mastery of explicit communication, transforming assumptions into clear, actionable guidelines. Many professionals discover that their attempts at delegation fail not because of incompetent team members, but due to their own unclear directions. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that precise instructions are an investment. They reduce friction, accelerate learning curves, and ensure consistent quality, which is crucial for scalable income growth. For your micro action, choose a simple, recurring task, perhaps sending a specific type of email, updating a client record, or organizing a digital file, and write down the step-by-step instructions for someone else to follow. Take a moment to consider how much more smoothly your operations could run if every delegated task was supported by this level of clarity. This simple act of documentation creates immense leverage and multiplies your output. Instruct for success. Empower with precision. Now, here's where the real shift begins in unlocking true delegation power. We must confront the deeply ingrained myth no one can do it like me. This belief, often rooted in a desire for quality and control, traps professionals in a stifling status quo. Micromanaging, which actively prevents others from taking ownership, stifles their growth, and ultimately limits your own output. Think of the moment when you assigned a task, only to hover over the person, offering constant, unsolicited advice, or even taking over parts of it yourself. This approach, while well-intentioned, kills initiative, frustrates team members, and robs you of the time and mental space needed for high-leverage activities like strategic career planning, skill stacking, or building your financial runway. The first thing to grasp is that your unique value lies in high-level vision and decision-making, not in perfecting every single detail. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ability to empower others, trusting them with defined responsibilities. Many professionals discover that their income growth stalls because they're too busy ensuring perfection in low-value tasks rather than focusing on the bigger picture of client acquisition or negotiating better terms. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that giving autonomy fosters growth in others, creating a more capable and engaged team that can significantly multiply your impact. It's a critical component of building leverage for your job escape strategy. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously releasing control. For your micro-action, delegate a small, clearly defined task to someone else, a colleague, a virtual assistant, or even a family member for a personal chore, and then, critically, resist the urge to check in or intervene for at least one full hour. This creates space for them to own the process, trust to grow, empower to multiply. There's a deeper layer worth exploring regarding how you leverage your most valuable asset, your time. Many professionals operate under the pervasive myth that outsourcing is an expensive luxury, only for large corporations or those already financially free. This belief traps them in a detrimental status quo, constantly ignoring incredibly cost-effective ways to buy back their own time. Think of the moment when you spent hours on tedious administrative tasks, researching basic information, or managing your calendar, knowing that your highest value lies in skill stacking, strategizing client acquisition, or refining your career trajectory. This do-it-yourself mentality often creates an invisible bottleneck, hindering your income growth and delaying the crucial runway building needed for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that outsourcing is not an expense. It's a strategic investment in reclaiming your high-leverage time. Your true earning power comes from focusing on tasks only you can do. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their keen awareness of their hourly value and their willingness to pay a fraction of that to offload lower-value activities. Many professionals discover that their progress toward financial freedom stagnates because they are performing $25 an hour tasks when their potential value is 10 times that amount. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that even small, consistent acts of delegation free up significant mental bandwidth, allowing you to focus on complex problem solving or developing new market skills. One shift that accelerates progress is actively seeking opportunities to release tasks that don't directly require your unique genius. For your micro-action, dedicate 15 minutes today to research basic virtual assistant services. Understand their typical rates and the kinds of tasks they handle. Take a moment to consider the profound impact on your growth if you could buy back just 1 hour of your week at a fraction of your own hourly rate. Invest in freedom. Multiply your future. Chapter 10. The Digital Detox Doctrine. Reclaiming your attention from the algorithms. Consider Sarah, a driven professional determined to build a lucrative online course business as her escape route from corporate burnout. She had the skills, the passion, and even a solid initial plan. Yet every time she sat down to craft module content or research market demand, her phone would buzz with a new email, a social media alert, or a news headline. Each urgent ping pulled her away, breaking her concentration and demanding a mental reset. Hours would pass, feeling busy but achieving little deep creative work. Her course launch was perpetually delayed, her skill stacking remained superficial, and her financial runway for the big leap stayed stagnant, all because of the insidious belief that being constantly reachable equated to being productive. Take a moment to notice where the demand for constant responsiveness might be hijacking your own focus. This scenario powerfully illustrates the pervasive myth that being constantly reachable is a sign of productivity. In reality, this leads to a debilitating status quo. Constant pings and notifications hijack your focus, fragment your attention, and diminish your capacity for the deep work essential for true progress. The first thing to grasp is that high-value activities, like mastering a new market skill, strategizing for client acquisition, or meticulously building your financial runway, demand uninterrupted concentration. Many professionals discover that their struggle to achieve income growth or make successful career transitions isn't due to a lack of talent, but a lack of protected time for focused effort. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate defense of their attention. They understand that every interruption comes with a steep cognitive cost, eroding their capacity for complex problem solving and strategic planning. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that your attention is your most valuable currency. Allowing algorithms to dictate where it goes is a profound financial and career mistake. One shift that accelerates progress is reclaiming control over your digital environment. For your micro action, disable all non-essential app notifications on your phone right now. Protect your focus, preserve your power, reclaim your attention, construct your future. This insight naturally leads us forward to examine another subtle saboteur of your financial freedom journey: the myth that mindless scrolling is harmless entertainment. This belief perpetuates a detrimental status quo, allowing endless digital feeds to steal hours from your day, diminish your presence, and drain your mental energy. Think of the moment when you picked up your phone for just a minute during a break from skill stacking, or while considering a complex budget adjustment, only to find 20 minutes had vanished into an abyss of social media feeds. This isn't benign. This time theft directly impacts your ability to execute a solid career strategy, hinders your income growth, and critically delays the building of your financial runway for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that every minute spent on passive consumption is a minute not invested in active creation or strategic planning, the activities that actually move you closer to your goals. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their conscious protection of their time and mental bandwidth from low-value, high-distraction activities. Many professionals discover that their struggle with client acquisition friction or developing in-demand market skills often stems from this pervasive digital drain. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that these platforms are designed to be addictive, explicitly engineered to capture and monetize your attention. You are the product. One shift that accelerates progress is creating friction between yourself and these digital time sinks. For your micro action, delete one social media app from your phone for the next 24 hours. Experience the immediate sensation of reclaiming that mental space. Take a moment to notice how much more time and mental clarity you suddenly have available. Reclaim your moments. Redefine your future. Detach to achieve. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about reclaiming your attention from the algorithms. There's a pervasive myth that you must check email constantly to be responsive and productive. This belief traps countless professionals in a debilitating status quo, perpetually living in their inbox, which actively prevents proactive, high-leverage work. Consider a time when you sat down to tackle a complex financial analysis or develop a new skill for your career strategy, only to be constantly interrupted by incoming messages. Each ding pulled you away, demanding a context switch, fragmenting your focus. This reactive posture diminishes your earning power, stalls critical skill stacking, and dramatically delays building the financial runway needed for job escape. You're always responding to others' agendas, never fully advancing your own. The first thing to grasp is that your inbox is merely a communication channel, not a to-do list dictating your day. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that true productivity comes from focused creation, not perpetual reaction. Many professionals discover that their perceived diligence in email response is actually a significant bottleneck to meaningful career growth and client acquisition. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that very few emails genuinely demand an immediate reply. Most can wait an hour or two, or even a full day, without dire consequences. This awareness grants you immense leverage over your time and mental energy. One shift that accelerates progress is establishing clear boundaries around email. For your micro action, close your email tab right now and commit to checking it only at set, predetermined times today, perhaps once in the morning, once at midday, and once before logging off. Take a moment to consider how much more focused and effective you could be with protected blocks of deep work. This deliberate boundary setting empowers you to reclaim your agenda and drive your own progress. Master your inbox. Master your impact. Moving from theory into practice, let's tackle another insidious myth undermining your journey to financial freedom: the belief that increasing screen time is an inevitable part of modern life. This acceptance leads to a detrimental status quo, uncontrolled digital consumption that significantly impacts your sleep, mood, and ultimately your capacity for high-performance work. Think of the moment when you found yourself scrolling late into the night or watching just one more episode, only to wake up groggy, unfocused, and lacking the mental sharpness needed to tackle complex career strategy decisions or master new market skills. This perpetual state of digital overload doesn't just steal your leisure, it erodes the very foundation of your productivity, hindering income growth and the disciplined effort required for runway building. The first thing to grasp is that your brain requires periods of genuine rest and disconnection to consolidate learning, foster creativity, and maintain peak function. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their disciplined approach to digital boundaries, recognizing that recovery is as crucial as effort. Many professionals discover that their inability to effectively execute risky transitions or engage in demanding negotiation stems directly from chronic digital fatigue. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that the blue light and constant stimulation from screens disrupt your natural sleep cycles and mental calm, leading to a perpetual state of low-grade stress. One shift that accelerates progress is intentionally creating digital off-ramps throughout your day and week. For your micro-action, set a 1-hour screen time limit for all entertainment apps on your phone or computer, starting today. Utilize your device's built-in tools for this. Take a moment to consider the profound positive impact on your energy and focus if you consistently implemented this single boundary. Control your consumption, cultivate your capacity, disconnect to thrive. There's a deeper layer worth exploring regarding our digital habits: the pervasive myth that the internet connects us best. This belief fosters a detrimental status quo where countless digital interactions replace genuine, high-quality human connection. Consider a time when you relied solely on email or social media for professional networking, only to find those connections felt superficial, lacking the depth needed for true collaboration or client acquisition. This digital displacement impacts your career strategy by eroding trust and making authentic negotiation more challenging. It hinders skill stacking that often requires mentorship and direct feedback, and it delays building a robust financial runway that thrives on strong personal relationships. The first thing to grasp is that genuine human connection, built through direct interaction, is the bedrock of influence and opportunity. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that high-quality relationships are invaluable assets, not merely a byproduct of online activity. Many professionals discover that the most impactful mentorships or strategic partnerships emerged from dedicated, in-person engagement, not endless digital exchanges. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that being truly present in a conversation, without the distraction of a glowing screen, unlocks deeper insights, fosters empathy, and strengthens bonds. This directly translates to more effective collaboration and greater leverage in your professional life. For your micro-action, have a 15-minute face-to-face conversation with someone today, whether a colleague, friend, or family member, ensuring your phone is out of sight and silent. Take a moment to consider the profound difference this focused presence makes in the quality of your interaction. Authentic connection is not just a personal luxury, it's a strategic asset. Connect with presence. Build with purpose. Chapter 11. the momentum multiplier, leveraging small wins for giant leaps. Consider Alex, an ambitious software engineer who dreamed of escaping his corporate cubicle by launching his own innovative tech startup. He was brilliant, but held a deep-seated belief that only grand, disruptive breakthroughs truly mattered. So he spent years refining his initial concept, waiting for the perfect market conditions, a fully funded seed round, or an aha moment that would guarantee a flawless launch. He meticulously planned every detail, refusing to release anything less than perfect. Meanwhile, competitors launched imperfect but functional products, gained traction, and iterated. Alex remained stalled, his skills stacking static, his financial runway untouched, and his job escape perpetually delayed, all because he dismissed the power of small, consistent, imperfect steps toward a larger vision. This scenario vividly illustrates the pervasive myth that only big achievements count, fostering a detrimental status quo where waiting for perfection paralyzes genuine progress. The first thing to grasp is that true momentum isn't generated by grand gestures, but by the relentless accumulation of consistent, tiny victories. Think of the moment when you delayed learning a crucial market skill, waiting for a full weekend to dedicate to it, instead of committing just 10 minutes each day. Many professionals discover that their path to income growth or a successful career transition is paved with these seemingly insignificant daily efforts, not sporadic bursts of Herculean labor. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that done is better than perfect for initial steps, especially when building a financial runway or acquiring new leverage. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that each small completion provides a psychological reward, a dopamine hit that fuels the motivation for the next step, creating an unstoppable flywheel. For your micro action, identify one task you've been delaying, a budget review, client outreach, or a small component of a larger project, and just start it for 10 minutes, right now. Take a moment to consider the profound cumulative impact of hundreds of these small starts. Initiate to accelerate. Small wins, giant leaps. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about leveraging small wins for giant leaps. There's a common and insidious myth that small efforts simply don't matter, that they're too insignificant to move the needle on substantial goals. This belief traps many in a detrimental status quo, consistently underestimating how incredibly powerful consistent small steps accumulate over time. Think of the moment when you dismissed a 15-minute block of time as not enough to work on your financial plan or to learn a new, high-demand market skill. This pervasive underestimation leads to inertia, preventing critical skill stacking, delaying income growth, and ultimately lengthening the time it takes to build a robust financial runway for your job escape. The first thing to grasp is the principle of compounding, not just in finance, but in effort and skill development. Every small, deliberate action, consistently applied, creates exponential growth you can't achieve through sporadic, intense bursts. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their unwavering commitment to daily, incremental progress towards their long-term vision. They understand that overcoming client acquisition friction, for instance, often comes from many small, consistent touches, not just one large pitch. Many professionals discover that their biggest leaps were preceded by months or even years of seemingly minor, consistent inputs. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that consistency trumps intensity for sustainable progress. It builds habits, reduces decision fatigue, and ensures continuous forward motion. For your micro action, commit to one 15-minute task related to a significant long-term goal every single day this week. This could be researching a market trend, reviewing a section of your budget, or practicing a new skill. Take a moment to consider where a consistent, small daily effort could truly transform an area of your life you've deemed too big to tackle. These micro-commitments are the true fuel for your future, consistently small, profoundly impactful. This insight naturally leads us forward to dismantle a subtle yet powerful inhibitor of progress. There's a widespread myth that self-praise is ego-driven or unprofessional. This belief fosters a detrimental status quo, failing to acknowledge even small progress, which silently diminishes your intrinsic motivation and makes sustained effort far more challenging. Think of the moment when you completed a difficult client acquisition call or spent an hour diligently skill stacking a new market competency, only to immediately focus on the next challenge or criticize what you could have done better. This lack of internal validation short-circuits your brain's reward system, making it harder to maintain enthusiasm for your career strategy, income growth, or the arduous process of building your financial runway for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that self-acknowledgement isn't vanity. It's a vital psychological mechanism for maintaining momentum. Your brain thrives on positive feedback. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate practice of reinforcing positive behaviors, even the seemingly minor ones. Many professionals discover that their struggle to overcome negotiation mistakes or burnout cycles often stems from a constant, uncelebrated grind. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that internally celebrating small wins releases dopamine, a neurochemical that fuels motivation and focus, creating a virtuous cycle of productivity. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously building this into your routine. For your micro-action, the next time you complete even a small task, sending that difficult email, completing a 15-minute focused work block, or checking off a step on your financial plan, take a brief moment to mentally celebrate it. Acknowledge your effort and completion. Take a moment to notice how this simple act shifts your energy and readiness for the next challenge. Celebrate your progress, fuel your journey, acknowledge and advance. Moving from theory into practice, let's dismantle another subtle obstacle to sustained momentum. There's a prevalent myth that you need to track every single data point, every hour, every micrometric, to truly understand your progress. This belief often leads to a debilitating status quo, overwhelming data, or the absence of it, which paradoxically causes you to not see your real progress, leading to discouragement and stagnation. Consider a time when you felt busy all day, yet at the end, couldn't pinpoint what you actually accomplished toward your financial freedom or career strategy goals. This lack of visible, tangible progress can erode motivation for skill stacking, income growth initiatives, or the disciplined effort needed for runway building. The first thing to grasp is that what gets measured gets managed, but overmeasurement can be counterproductive. Your brain needs clear, simple markers of completion to release dopamine and sustain effort. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their focus on visible, simple indicators of forward movement, particularly on tasks that create leverage. Many professionals discover that the sheer volume of tasks involved in client acquisition or a job escape plan can feel insurmountable without clear checkpoints. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that visual evidence of completion provides a powerful psychological boost, reminding you that your efforts are indeed accumulating. One shift that accelerates progress is simplifying your tracking system to focus on immediate, actionable accomplishments. For your micro-action, grab a pen and paper or open a simple digital note and create a basic checklist. As you complete 3 tasks today, no matter how small, physically mark them off. Take a moment to notice the quiet satisfaction and renewed sense of control that comes from seeing tangible progress. Acknowledge your completion, build your belief, track to triumph. There's a deeper layer worth exploring regarding the cultivation of consistent progress. We often encounter the pervasive myth that habits are inherently hard to form, requiring monumental willpower. This belief traps many in a detrimental status quo, perpetually relying on sheer grit instead of smart habit design. Think of a time when you tried to force yourself to consistently work on skill stacking or daily client acquisition, only to find your motivation waning. This reliance on raw willpower is unsustainable, leading to inconsistent effort and stalled income growth. The first thing to grasp is that your brain is a pattern-seeking machine. Instead of fighting it with willpower, you can strategically design your environment and routines to make desired behaviors almost automatic. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that discipline isn't about constant struggle, but about the intelligent architecture of their daily actions. Many professionals discover that their breakthroughs in market skills came not from heroic efforts, but from a relentless application of small, well-designed habits. Another factor that changes everything is the concept of habit stacking. leveraging existing routines as triggers for new desired behaviors. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously linking a new positive habit to an action you already perform daily without fail. For your micro action, choose one new desired habit, perhaps reviewing your top priorities for 5 minutes, and link it to an existing daily routine, such as after I finish my first cup of coffee, I will plan my day. Take a moment to notice how much easier it feels to execute a new action when it's automatically triggered by something you already do. This powerful technique bypasses decision fatigue and builds effortless momentum. Design your habits, define your destiny, stack for success. Chapter 12, The Time Scarcity Illusion, Discovering Hidden Hours in Your Day. Consider David, an ambitious architect passionate about sustainable design, who yearned to launch his own eco-consulting firm. He felt perpetually overwhelmed by his demanding corporate job, family life, and daily chores. Every evening, he'd collapse, proclaiming, "I just don't have enough time." He genuinely wanted to dedicate hours to researching green building certifications or networking with potential clients, but convinced himself the time simply didn't exist. His dream remained on the drawing board, his unique skills untapped, and his financial freedom an ever-receding mirage, all due to the crippling belief that time was a finite, unmanageable resource. This scenario vividly illustrates the myth that you genuinely lack time, leading to a detrimental status quo. Believing there's not enough time prevents proactive planning. The first thing to grasp is that time isn't scarce. Our awareness and intentionality about how we use it often are. Many professionals discover that their perceived lack of time for critical skill stacking, income growth initiatives, or building a robust financial runway is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Think of the moment when a pressing deadline forced you to find hours you didn't have. Those hours were always there, just unallocated, waiting to be claimed for strategic career planning or client acquisition. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ability to reveal and reclaim these hidden pockets of time, leveraging them for high-value work. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that even short, focused bursts of effort in these reclaimed moments can compound significantly over weeks and months, directly impacting your job escape timeline. For your micro action, the next time you feel you have no time, track exactly how you spend 15 consecutive minutes. Just observe without judgment. Take a moment to notice where this principle of hidden time might already be showing up in your own daily decisions. This simple act of observation illuminates the true availability of time. Identify to empower. Time is not found, it's made. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about discovering hidden hours in your day. A pervasive myth many professionals cling to is that all activities are necessary, or at least unavoidable. This belief traps you in a debilitating status quo. Unconsciously engaging in low-value time drains that steal hours and mental energy from your most important goals. Consider a time when you found yourself endlessly reshuffling emails, attending non-essential meetings, or getting pulled into unproductive office chatter. These activities, though seemingly part of the workday, divert critical resources away from strategic career planning, skill stacking, or the focused effort required for income growth and building your financial runway for job escape. They don't contribute to your leverage, they diminish it. The first thing to grasp is that not all minutes are created equal. Your ability to distinguish between high leverage and low leverage activities is paramount. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ruthless efficiency in eliminating or minimizing tasks that don't align with their core objectives. Many professionals discover that the perceived busyness in their day is often a self-inflicted wound, preventing genuine progress on client acquisition or navigating complex budget stress. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that every minute spent on a low-value activity is a minute not invested in developing market skills or executing your exit plan. One shift that accelerates progress is conscious identification of these drains. For your micro action, take a few minutes right now and list 3 common time-wasting activities you engage in daily, whether at work or home. Be honest with yourself. Take a moment to notice where this principle already shows up in your own decisions, or rather, where its absence impacts your effectiveness. Eliminate the low, elevate the high. Time reclaimed is power gained. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about discovering hidden hours in your day. There's a pervasive myth that small gaps of time are essentially useless, too insignificant to truly contribute to meaningful progress. This belief traps many in a detrimental status quo, consciously or unconsciously ignoring short pockets of time that, if leveraged, could be incredibly productive. Think of the moment when you found yourself waiting for a meeting to start, in a queue, or for a download to complete, only to default to mindless scrolling. This seemingly harmless habit represents a significant drain on your potential, preventing critical skill stacking, delaying income growth, and pushing back the timeline for building your financial runway for job escape. These fleeting moments, if unredeemed, are direct costs to your career strategy. The first thing to grasp is that productivity isn't solely about dedicated, uninterrupted blocks. It's also about the strategic utilization of these micro moments. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their acute awareness of these interstitial periods and their proactive strategy to inject high-leverage activities into them. Many professionals discover that their ability to overcome client acquisition friction or stay on top of budget stress comes from consistently chipping away at tasks during these overlooked intervals. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that consistently applying even small bursts of effort compounds over time, building momentum and reducing the perceived burden of larger goals. One shift that accelerates progress is deliberately assigning a microtask to your next brief wait. For your micro action, the next time you find yourself with a 10-minute wait, instead of defaulting to distraction, use that time to read a relevant industry article, respond to one non-urgent email, or make a quick note on your career strategy plan. Take a moment to consider how many 10-minute pockets arise in your typical day and what you currently do with them. By consciously repurposing these seemingly insignificant moments, you inject powerful momentum into your daily progress. Redeem your minutes, accelerate your ascent. Now here's where the real shift begins in how you perceive your daily schedule. There's a deeply entrenched myth that commuting is simply dead time, an unavoidable, unproductive void in your day. This belief leads to a detrimental status quo, consistently failing to utilize travel time for high-leverage learning, strategic planning, or personal growth. Consider a time when you spent your entire commute listening to passive entertainment or simply staring out the window instead of actively engaging in a skill-building activity. This passive consumption, multiplied across weeks and months, represents a significant lost opportunity for skill stacking, accelerating income growth, or refining your career strategy, all of which are crucial for building your financial runway and making your job escape a reality. The first thing to grasp is that your commute, regardless of its length, is a dedicated, often uninterrupted block of time that can be consciously repurposed. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their ability to transform these perceived dead zones into powerful learning or planning hubs. Many professionals discover that their breakthroughs in market skills or their clarity on complex negotiation strategies often stem from insights gained during intentional commute time. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that this consistent small injection of learning or planning compounds powerfully over time. It's a prime opportunity for found time that requires minimal additional effort. One shift that accelerates progress is proactively choosing an educational input for your travel. For your micro action, during your very next commute, whether by car, train, or bus, commit to listening to an educational podcast or an audiobook relevant to your career strategy or skill development. Take a moment to notice the potential impact of reclaiming just 30 minutes of your daily commute for focused growth. Commute with purpose. Arrive with power. Learn on the go. With that foundation in place, let's address one final, often overlooked area where time is silently slipping away. There's a pervasive myth that weekends are solely for pure escape and complete disconnection. This belief perpetuates a detrimental status quo, consistently failing to strategically use weekend time for both genuine rest and proactive planning. Think of the moment when you pushed through a weekend feeling unproductive, because you either didn't truly switch off or you engaged in no high-leverage planning. This burnout cycle directly impacts your ability to make clear decisions about your career strategy, tackle complex client acquisition, or address accumulating budget stress, often leading to Monday morning overwhelm. Many professionals discover that the most successful job escape strategies involve consistent, small acts of preparation, and the weekend offers ideal, quieter periods for this. The first thing to grasp is that true rest isn't about mindless distraction. It's about active recovery and strategic rejuvenation that fuels your weekday performance. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate use of weekend margins for high-level thinking, goal review, and proactive planning that sets the stage for the week ahead. This conscious allocation prevents opportunities for skill stacking from being missed. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that even a small, focused block of time on a weekend can clarify priorities and make your weekday efforts far more effective. For your micro-action, dedicate just 15 minutes this weekend to review your goals. Take a moment to consider how intentionally using a small part of your weekend could amplify your entire week. This intentional allocation of weekend time transforms it from a mere escape into a powerful launchpad for your aspirations. Rest to build, plan to prosper. Chapter 13, The Freedom Framework, Crafting Your Ideal Work-Life Integration. Consider Maria, a talented marketing manager who felt perpetually exhausted and conflicted. She bought into the pervasive corporate ideal of work-life balance as a perfectly even 50-50 split between her demanding job and her personal life. When work projects demanded extra hours, she felt crushing guilt, believing she was failing her family. When she took time for herself, anxiety gnawed at her, fearing she was falling behind at work. This unattainable quest for an arbitrary balance kept her in a constant state of internal friction, hindering her career strategy, stalling her income growth, and making the prospect of building a stable financial runway for job escape seem like an impossible fantasy. She was chasing an illusion, not genuine freedom. This scenario powerfully illustrates the pervasive myth that work-life balance is a perfectly equal 50-50 split, fostering a detrimental status quo where striving for this unattainable equilibrium creates profound guilt and exhaustion. The first thing to grasp is that true integration isn't about equal halves. It's about intentional design and alignment with your personal values and priorities. Many professionals discover that the quest for a mythical balance often leads to burnout cycles and negotiation mistakes because they aren't clear on what they're actually trying to achieve. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their focus on work-life integration, a dynamic flow where professional and personal priorities are strategically woven together, not rigidly separated. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that your definition of success, and thus your freedom, is entirely unique. It's not about an external metric, but an internal sense of alignment. One shift that accelerates progress is defining what freedom truly means to you in your daily life. For your micro-action, take a few minutes right now to write down 3 specific feelings or experiences that define freedom for you. Take a moment to notice where this principle already shows up in your own decisions or where it's desperately needed. Define your freedom, then design your life. Integrate to elevate. Expanding on our discussion of genuine work-life integration, let's confront a deeply ingrained myth: the notion that success inherently means constant, relentless work. This belief traps countless individuals in a detrimental status quo, allowing external metrics like titles, hours logged, or perceived hustle to overshadow their most fundamental personal values. Consider a time when you chased a promotion or accepted a project solely for its prestige, only to find it left you feeling hollow, disconnected from what truly matters to you. This relentless pursuit of external validation, divorced from your core values, leads to burnout cycles, impedes genuine skill stacking, and creates negotiation mistakes because you lack a clear internal compass. It can derail your career strategy and prolong the building of a meaningful financial runway for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that sustainable success, the kind that leads to true financial freedom and a rich life, is an inside-out game. It begins with clarity on your non-negotiable values. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their unwavering commitment to aligning their professional actions with their deepest personal convictions. Many professionals discover that their greatest sense of leverage and purpose comes when their daily work genuinely reflects what they hold most dear, rather than simply meeting someone else's definition of achievement. Another factor that changes everything is recognizing that sacrificing personal values for external validation is a depleting, zero-sum game. It erodes your motivation and makes true work-life integration impossible. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously identifying your core values and actively seeking ways to honor them daily. For your micro-action, take a few moments right now to identify your top 3 personal values, perhaps family, integrity, or creative expression, and then recall one specific way you honored one of those values today. Take a moment to notice the feeling of alignment and peace that comes from this recognition. Live your values, build your legacy. Purpose fuels power. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about crafting your ideal work-life integration. We often carry a deeply ingrained myth that downtime is unproductive, a waste of precious hours that should be spent on work. This belief traps countless professionals in a debilitating status quo, constantly feeling guilty about taking a break, which inevitably leads to chronic burnout. Consider a time when you pushed through a weekend, feeling obligated to be productive, but instead you ended up feeling drained and mentally foggy by Monday morning. This kind of forced, unrested effort directly impacts your ability to engage effectively in crucial career strategy discussions or to maintain the focus required for intricate skill stacking. This constant pressure hinders your income growth by diminishing your overall capacity, making the prospect of building a solid financial runway for job escape feel even more distant, as you're constantly operating at a deficit. The first thing to grasp is that true downtime is not the absence of productivity. It is a vital component of it. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that strategic rest enhances their leverage, improves decision-making capabilities, and fuels long-term creativity. Many professionals discover that their greatest breakthroughs often come after periods of genuine mental disengagement. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that the guilt surrounding rest is often a cultural construct, not a biological necessity. Think of the moment when a short, genuine break unexpectedly sparked a creative solution to a client acquisition friction point or clarified a complex budget stress issue. One shift that accelerates progress is actively scheduling leisure, treating restorative activities with the same importance as your most critical work appointments. For your micro-action, schedule a 15-minute leisure activity into your day today. Perhaps reading a physical book, engaging in a simple hobby, or just quietly observing your surroundings. Take a moment to notice where this principle of treating rest as productive already shows up in your best work, or where its absence creates friction. Prioritize renewal. Amplify your impact. Rest to rise. This insight naturally leads us forward to challenge a fundamental assumption: the myth that the traditional 9-to-5 work structure is somehow unavoidable. This belief traps far too many in a debilitating status quo, passively accepting conventional work arrangements as their only option, even when they no longer serve their goals for financial freedom or personal fulfillment. Consider a time when you felt stifled by rigid office hours, unable to pursue a crucial skill-stacking course, or manage a personal commitment without feeling stressed or seeking permission. This ingrained acceptance can severely limit your career strategy, hinder your ability to maximize income growth through flexible opportunities, and delay the building of a robust financial runway for your job escape. It can even lead to negotiation mistakes because you're operating from a position of perceived constraint rather than possibility. The first thing to grasp is that the world of work is rapidly evolving, offering more flexibility than ever before. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their proactive approach to creating and negotiating work structures that align with their ideal life, rather than just conforming. Many professionals discover that their greatest leverage comes from challenging the assumption of rigid structures, proving their value, and then requesting greater autonomy. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that advocating for flexibility isn't about being lazy. It's about optimizing your productivity and well-being, which ultimately benefits your employer and your clients. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously exploring alternative arrangements. For your microaction, brainstorm one practical way you could introduce greater flexibility into your current work situation, even if it feels like a long shot. Perhaps a compressed work week or adjusted hours. Take a moment to notice where this principle of challenging the default already shows up in your own decisions, or where it needs to be applied. Challenge the structure, craft your freedom, design your work, live your life. Moving from theory into practice, let's confront perhaps the most insidious myth regarding your freedom framework. This is the belief that you must wait until retirement to truly live, fostering a detrimental status quo where countless individuals delay life experiences until old age. Consider a time when you put off a trip, a hobby, or even a simple personal celebration, telling yourself you'd have more time or more money later. This perpetual deferral erodes your motivation for the daily grind, making skill stacking feel pointless and income growth less inspiring. It fundamentally undermines the why behind your career strategy and your efforts to build a financial runway for job escape, leaving you susceptible to burnout and regret. The first thing to grasp is that true financial freedom isn't just about a number. It's about the freedom to experience life now, not just in some distant future. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their understanding that integrating joyful experiences along the journey sustains motivation and clarifies purpose. Many professionals discover that these integrated mini-retirements or intentional experiences prevent the kind of profound burnout that leads to negotiation mistakes or a complete loss of direction. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that these experiences often fuel creativity and problem-solving, making you more effective in your work, not less. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously embedding moments of joy and adventure into your current life. For your microaction, take a moment right now to plan one small adventure or unique experience for next month. It doesn't need to be expensive or elaborate. Perhaps a hike to a new trail, a visit to a local museum you've never seen, or a special meal with a loved one. Take a moment to notice how this act of intentional planning shifts your perspective from endless waiting to proactive living. Your journey to financial freedom is meant to be lived, not merely endured. Live the journey, embrace the destination. Don't wait to live. Chapter 14, The Legacy Blueprint, Sustaining Your Reclaimed Life for Good. Consider Sarah, who brilliantly executed her job escape plan. She'd meticulously built her side income, mastered new market skills, and cultivated a robust financial runway. The day she submitted her resignation was exhilarating. For a few months, her new entrepreneurial life thrived, fueled by the same disciplined habits that had brought her freedom. But subtly, a myth took hold, that once free, her productivity and positive patterns were permanent. She relaxed consistent client outreach, skipped daily skill stacking sessions, and grew less meticulous with budget reviews. Believing she was there, old, less disciplined habits crept back in. Within a year, her income growth plateaued, client acquisition became friction, and the familiar anxiety of financial insecurity resurfaced. Her reclaimed life drifted, not from external forces, but internal complacency. Take a moment to notice where this principle of ongoing vigilance already shows up in your own decisions, or where its absence has allowed old patterns to creep back in. This scenario powerfully debunks the myth that once productive, always productive. It highlights the dangerous status quo of slipping back into old patterns without conscious effort. The first thing to grasp is that sustaining your reclaimed life is an ongoing process, not a destination achieved and then forgotten. Think of the moment when a market skill you once mastered became obsolete because you stopped actively learning. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their deliberate creation of feedback loops and accountability structures to prevent drift, ensuring their career strategy remains dynamic. Many professionals discover that the habits which built their financial runway, like diligent budget tracking or consistent skill refinement, are precisely what's needed to maintain it. Another factor that changes everything is understanding that the principles that built your freedom are the same ones that sustain it, from avoiding negotiation mistakes to proactive client acquisition. For your micro action, choose one micro action from any previous chapter, perhaps committing to 10 minutes of focused work daily, or mentally celebrating a completed task, and recommit to it for the next 7 days. This intentional re-engagement prevents regression. Your legacy is built not just on the escape, but on the sustained mastery of your freedom. Commit to continuous care. This insight naturally leads us forward to examine another common pitfall in sustaining progress. There's a widespread myth that a one-time audit of your habits or time allocation is sufficient. This belief traps many in a detrimental status quo. Failing to regularly assess where your time, energy, and focus truly go, leading to subtle yet significant drift from your optimal path. Consider a time when you realized, perhaps weeks or months too late, that you had unconsciously started spending more time on low-value tasks or distractions, despite initially being highly focused on your career strategy. This gradual creep diminishes your capacity for skill stacking, slows income growth, and can erode the hard-won financial runway you built for your job escape. It's akin to diligently balancing your budget once, then never looking at your spending again. Minor leaks eventually become major problems. The first thing to grasp is that your priorities and the demands on your time are constantly shifting. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their commitment to ongoing self-assessment and strategic adjustment. Many professionals discover that regular, even brief, reviews of their time allocation are far more effective than sporadic, exhaustive audits. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that this regular assessment provides the data needed to make informed decisions about where to invest your most precious resource. One shift that accelerates progress is integrating a simple, periodic time review into your routine. For your micro action, take 2 minutes right now to briefly review how you spent your last 24 hours. Take a moment to notice where this principle of regular assessment already shows up in your own decisions, or where its absence leads to unnecessary friction. Regular review, consistent growth. Monitor to master. Let's build directly on what we uncovered about sustaining your reclaimed life. There's a persistent myth that once set, goals are fixed forever, immutable decrees carved in stone. This belief traps many in a detrimental status quo, stubbornly sticking to outdated plans that no longer serve their evolving ambitions, current market conditions, or personal circumstances. Consider a time when you doggedly pursued a career path or a financial target that, upon closer inspection, no longer aligned with your deepest values or the shifting landscape of your industry. This rigid adherence to an obsolete blueprint can lead to profound frustration, wasted effort in skill stacking, and an inability to adapt your career strategy for optimal income growth. It can even make your meticulously built financial runway for job escape feel like a gilded cage rather than true freedom. The first thing to grasp is that goals are dynamic, living entities, not static monuments. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their agility in adapting their vision and their tactical plans, always recalibrating against reality. Many professionals discover that the most impactful shifts in their earning power come from an honest appraisal of what is and isn't working, and a willingness to course correct. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that gracefully adjusting a goal is a sign of wisdom and strategic thinking, not failure. One shift that accelerates progress is consciously building in regular goal review and adjustment. For your micro action, revisit one long-term goal you've set for yourself today and honestly assess if it still resonates and is achievable given your current reality and knowledge. Be open to adjusting it. Take a moment to notice where this principle already shows up in your own decisions or where clinging to an outdated plan has caused unnecessary friction. Adapt your vision, refine your journey, evolve to excel. Now here's where the real shift begins in how you sustain your reclaimed life. There's a powerful myth that you must maintain mastery, progress, and motivation entirely alone. This belief often leads to a detrimental status quo, lacking the crucial accountability and encouragement from others, causing you to subtly drift from your goals. especially when faced with friction or setbacks. Consider a time when you started a new skill stacking initiative or a client acquisition push with great enthusiasm, only to find your motivation waning after a few weeks when no one was tracking your progress. This isolation makes it exponentially harder to navigate the inevitable challenges of income growth, implement a complex career strategy, or maintain the discipline needed for building a robust financial runway for job escape. The first thing to grasp is that sustained success is rarely a solo endeavor. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their conscious cultivation of supportive networks and accountability partnerships. Many professionals discover that the simple act of sharing their intentions with a trusted peer dramatically increases their follow-through. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that external accountability isn't a sign of weakness. It's a strategic leverage point that harnesses social pressure and shared wisdom. One shift that accelerates progress is actively seeking out individuals who can provide this support. For your microaction, today, share one of your current time management goals or a career strategy objective with a trusted peer, mentor, or even a supportive family member. Just the act of articulating it to someone else is powerful. Take a moment to notice where this principle already shows up in your own decisions, or where its absence has held you back. Build your network, amplify your impact, share to succeed. With that foundation in place, let's explore a crucial mindset shift for truly sustaining your reclaimed life. There's a powerful myth that freedom is an endpoint, a destination you arrive at and then simply inhabit. This belief traps many in a detrimental status quo, viewing time mastery, skill accumulation, or financial independence as a one-time achievement, not a continuous journey. Consider a time when you achieved a significant goal, like a promotion or a financial milestone, and then eased off the very habits that got you there. This cessation of intentional effort can lead to stagnation in your career strategy, a plateau in income growth, and a gradual erosion of your hard-won financial runway for job escape, as market skills become outdated or new budget stresses emerge. You don't just achieve freedom, you practice it. The first thing to grasp is that true mastery in any area, especially time and financial leverage, is a lifelong process of learning and adaptation. What separates consistent earners from the rest is their unwavering commitment to viewing their progress as an ongoing journey of continuous refinement and strategic expansion. Many professionals discover that the moment they believe they've arrived is often the moment they begin to subtly decline, losing their edge in client acquisition or missing new opportunities. Another factor that changes everything is realizing that the tools and principles you've learned aren't just for escaping, they are for thriving. One shift that accelerates progress is proactively identifying new areas in your life where these time mastery principles can be applied for further enhancement. For your microaction, think about your daily life outside of core work responsibilities and identify one new area where you want to apply time mastery principles next. Perhaps it's optimizing your health routine, deepening a key relationship, or pursuing a personal creative project. Take a moment to notice how the pursuit of continuous improvement invigorates your sense of purpose, ensuring your reclaimed life never loses its luster. Freedom is not a finish line. It's the fuel for your ongoing journey. Keep mastering, keep living.